Part 52. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 512. Huihei Road is extremely lively on weekends, and the pedestrian street is full of people visiting and shopping. Huihei Road is a commercial street as famous as Jiangning Road. It best represents the characteristics of Shanghai. It is lined with high-end shopping malls and is extremely prosperous. In the past, this street was also called Sci-fi Road. Does the name Sci-fi Road sound familiar? It has appeared in many spy movies. Zhang Wenjun and 5 other girls were wandering on the pedestrian street. The tall, beautiful, and generous Zhang Wenjun attracted the attention of many passers-by, while Baolikin and Ji Qingqing became mere foils. This made Baolikin feel very unhappy. She's not bad looking, and she's pretty good at dressing up. Boys would call her beautiful when they see her, but she is outclassed when compared to Zhang Wenjun. Ji Qingqing glanced at Baolikin and said, "Likin, didn't you say you want to buy a bag? There is a Dior counter in front of you, why don't we go and have a look?" "Okay," Baolikin said reluctantly. She didn't really want to buy a bag. She had spent almost all the pocket money given by her family this month and had no money to buy it. Before, she just wanted to find a reason to come to the counter to authenticate Zhang Wenjun's bag and make her look embarrassed. After entering the store, Zhang Wenjun, Baolikin, Ji Qingqing and the others started shopping around. This store is a Dior clothing and bag counter. The clothes and skirts are exquisite and fashionable, and the bags are also very beautiful. Several counter ladies were watching from the side, with no intention of coming over to sell. Ji Qingqing came to a white chain handbag, showed a very fond expression, and said to Baolikin, "Likin, I think this bag is good, it is very beautiful and the price is not too high. This bag is priced at 11,600 yuan, which is one of the cheaper bags in this store." Baolikin glanced at the bag and said calmly, "It's okay." Ji Qingqing took another look before turning and leaving. She loved the bag but couldn't afford it. Ji Qingqing and Baolikin are both locals in Shanghai, but not all people in Shanghai are rich. Ji Qingqing's family conditions are very average. After browsing the bag area, another girl named Zheng Jiao said, "Likin, which one do you like?" "Forget it, I don't like it too much," Baolikin shook her head and said. Hearing this, a nearby counter girl gave her a strange look. Her look seemed to say, "Why are you pretending if you can't afford it?" The counter ladies at such big-name counters generally don't do things like sarcastic remarks to customers, but it's unrealistic to expect their service attitude to be very good. They can tell at a glance whether they are wealthy customers. "Let's go over there and look at the clothes," Zhang Wenjun said with a smile. Dior is best known for its cosmetics and handbags, but its clothing is not a strong point. The clothes in this store are colorful and extremely well made, but it's hard to say how beautiful they are. The most valuable thing about a big brand is its brand. Many products are actually manufactured in China. Just like the air vest worth RMB 20,000 to RMB 30,000, it is basically an IQ tax. Zheng Jiao saw a t-shirt and thought it was good, but after taking a look at the price tag of 2,680 yuan, she immediately showed an expression that she couldn't afford it. Ji Qingqing's eyes lit up. She walked up to a lake blue dress and couldn't help but say, "This dress is so beautiful." Zheng Jiao nodded and said, "It's very beautiful, but it seems a little too exposed. This is a backless dress with the entire back exposed." Ji Qingqing turned around and looked at Zhang Wenjun and said, "Wenjun, I think this skirt suits you very well. You will definitely look very beautiful in it. If you go to the company's annual meeting or dance, you will definitely become the center of attention." A tall girl like Zhang Wenjun with a good figure is very suitable for wearing this kind of dress. If she is too short, she will not be able to hold it up. Zhang Wenjun smiled and said, "It's not easy to be the focus of our company's annual meeting. Ge Ching was stunned for a moment after hearing this, and then responded, "Yes, your company is an entertainment group, and there are many beautiful female stars at the annual meeting. But Wenjun, I feel that you are no worse than those beautiful female stars." Zheng Jiao also smiled and said to Bao Liqian, "Liqian, I think you are also very suitable for this skirt." Although she and Zhang Wenjun are from the same hometown and are both from Anhui province, they have the best relationship with Bao Liqian, who is from Shanghai, because she can get some benefits from each other. Bao Liqian looked at the skirt and liked it very much, so she wanted to buy it, but after taking a look at the price, she gave up the idea. 18,600 yuan. Zhang Wenjun glanced at Bao Liqian and said, "Liqian, do you like this skirt too?" Bao Liqian said calmly, "It's okay. If you like it, Wenjun, I'll give it to you." Zhang Wenjun listened, nodded, and then waved to the counter sister not far away. "Wenjun, do you really want to buy it? This skirt costs nearly 20,000 yuan, Ge Ching couldn't help but say. Zhang Wenjun smiled, and then said to the counter girl who came over, "Can you try them on?" The counter sister looked her over, her eyes focused on the bag in her hand, and then said enthusiastically, "Okay. This skirt is this year's latest style, and it suits your temperament very well, miss." Zhang Wenjun and the cabinet sister went to the changing room together, and Xu Mei followed. Bao Liqian and Ge Ching looked at each other. Zheng Jiao said a little jealously, "It would be good to find a rich boyfriend. I can buy a dress worth 10,000 to 20,000 yuan. Bao Liqian smiled and said meaningfully, "It's not certain whether he is a boyfriend or not." She increasingly suspected that Zhang Wenjun was being kept by an old man. No matter how wealthy their families were, young second-generation rich people were rarely so generous. Only old and ugly bosses were willing to spend money on their young lovers. Bao Liqian's unhappiness immediately dissipated when she thought of Zhang Wenjun having to force a smile and deal with the disgusting old man. After a while, Zhang Wenjun changed his clothes and walked out of the changing room. Ge Ching and the others looked at her up and down, with astonishment on their faces. "Wenjun, you are so beautiful. In this lake blue backless dress, Zhang Wenjun is so sexy and beautiful, and she is so beautiful. Her especially fair and flawless back is so beautiful that people can't take their eyes away." Zhang Wenjun smiled reservedly, took out a bank card from his handbag and handed it to the counter girl beside him. "Swipe your card, I want this skirt." Due to her excellent performance in secretarial work, Li Jie rewarded her with a gold card with a limit of 100,000 yuan. After coming out of the store, Ge Ching glanced at the bag in Zhang Wenjun's hand. "Wenjun, why do you want to change back? That dress is so beautiful." Zhang Wenjun shook his head lightly, "He wouldn't let me wear such revealing clothes." "He? Is your boyfriend so strict?" Bao Liqian said in a playful tone, "Wenjun is so beautiful, her man will definitely be worried. The old man is not in good health, so he must be worried that his young lover will cuckold him." "Wenjun, since you don't plan to wear it, why did you buy this dress?" Zheng Jiao asked. "If you like it, buy it," Zhang Wenjun said nonchalantly. She bought this skirt with the intention of wearing it privately and showing it to Li Jie. "As long as you serve your boss well, are you still worried that you won't get a chance for promotion and salary increase?" Ge Ching and Zheng Jiao were fooled by Zhang Wenjun's nonchalant attitude. Bao Liqian sneered disdainfully. "There's nothing to show off about the money you get from pleasing old men." Zhang Wenjun's eyes suddenly fell on a young couple not far away. The boy is very young, probably still a student, of medium height, and looks very ordinary, but the girl he is holding is more mature, beautiful, and has a good temperament. The two of them looked ill-matched. If their behavior wasn't too close, they would be more like siblings than a couple. The boy also noticed Zhang Wenjun and the others. He was stunned for a moment and walked over with his girlfriend in his arms. "Secretary Zhang, you guys also go out for shopping?" Zhang Wenjun smiled and nodded to the boy, let's come over and hang out. Are you two dating? She said, looking at the girl he was holding. The boy's eyes fell on Xu Mei, who was next to Zhang Wenjun. He smiled and said, yes, let's come and hang out too. After the boy walked away with his girlfriend in his arms, Ji Qingqing asked curiously, Wenjun, who is this boy greeting you? Why does he call you Secretary Zhang? Zhang Wenjun looked away from the boy's retreating figure and said, he is my boss's brother-in-law. Your boss's brother-in-law? Ji Qingqing and the others were surprised when they heard this. Isn't he the brother-in-law of the big boss of your company, the youngest billionaire Li Jie? Yes, that's his brother-in-law. Zhang Wenjun nodded. He's not married yet, so why does he have a brother-in-law? He's his girlfriend's brother. No wonder his girlfriend is so beautiful. It turns out she has a good brother-in-law. Ji Qingqing and the others had expressions of surprise on their faces. Zheng Jiao looked at the boys retreating back again. I think he looks pretty good, but he's just not very good at taking care of himself. She thought he was quite ordinary before, but after learning that he was Li Jie's brother-in-law, she felt a little handsome. Ji Qingqing seemed to remember something and turned to look at Zhang Wenjun. Wenjun, he called you Secretary Zhang, so you are now Li Jie's secretary. Well, I'm Mr. Li's personal secretary now, Zhang Wenjun said calmly. Private secretary, Ji Qingqing and Zheng Jiao's voices revealed uncontrollable surprise. Bao Liqin was even more surprised and filled with strong jealousy. Wenjun, you are so amazing, you actually became Li Jie's personal secretary. Ji Qingqing's eyes were filled with envy. There are many types of secretaries, among which the relationship between a private secretary and the boss is undoubtedly the closest. Many beautiful female private secretaries like Zhang Wenjun not only need to take care of their boss's life and daily life, but also take good care of their boss's health. Ji Qingqing, Zheng Xiao and Bao Liqin glanced at each other and vaguely guessed who Zhang Wenjun's secretive boyfriend was. Wenjun, Mr. Li must think highly of you, right? Zheng Jiao said with a smile. There was something profound in her tone. Although they guessed that Zhang Wenjun was probably the boss's lover, Ji Qingqing and the others had no intention of looking down on her. Being kept by an old man will make you look down upon, but being the lover of a rich young man like Li Jie will only make people envious and jealous. Li Jie is the youngest billionaire. Not only is he rich, but he is also young and handsome. Not everyone is qualified to be his lover. This is an opportunity that many beautiful girls can't get even if they fight for it. Besides, Li Jie is not married yet. They say they are lovers, but they are actually in love. If you fall in love with an ordinary boy for a few years and break up, you will really be wasting your youth and gain nothing. But after dating a rich young man like Li Jie for a few years, even if he is dumped, he will still have everything he needs, such as a house and a car. This is not a lover, this is an opportunity for a class jump. Miao Wenqin turned around and glanced at Zhang Wenjun and the others, then turned to her boyfriend and said, the girl next to Secretary Zhang is Mr. Li's bodyguard Xu Mei, right? Xiaojin just hummed and said nothing. He has been studying here in Shanghai for almost a year, and he has already seen signs of it. His brother-in-law is quite romantic. Just like the Secretary Zhang I met just now, her relationship with his brother-in-law is obviously unusual. Xiaojin can also understand this. His brother-in-law is so young and promising, and it is normal for him to be romantic. Which rich man would stay with only one woman for the rest of his life? If he were as rich as his brother-in-law, he would treat his senior sister wholeheartedly. Thinking this, Xiaojin glanced at Miao Wenqin beside her. He is just getting more and more worried about his sister. She is not good at anything and has many bad habits. Can she really compete with Secretary Liu and Director Zhou? If it were him who had to choose, he definitely wouldn't choose his sister. I really don't know what his brother-in-law likes about his sister. Fortunately, His sister recently said that she was getting married to her brother-in-law. His good brother-in-law couldn't run away anymore. Xiaojin is not stupid either. He knows that he was able to pursue Miao Wenqian, a beautiful and excellent girlfriend, largely because he has a good brother-in-law. Of course, this is also inseparable from his excellent own conditions. This boy didn't learn a thing about his brother-in-law's ability to make money, but he did learn a lot about being thick-skinned. Xiaojin and Miao Wenqian went to buy a few cups of milk tea and some pastries, and then carried their things to a wedding dress shop. In the bridal shop, Xiao Jiao was standing in the fitting mirror wearing a very beautiful wedding dress. 2 or 3 female employees were helping her arrange the wedding dress. The female designer and bodyguard Zhou Jing stood aside. Xiaojin and Miao Wenqian came to Huihei Road today not for a date, but to accompany his sister to try on wedding dresses. Seeing Xiaojin and Miao Wenqian come in, Xiao Jiao showed a saved expression. "You guys are back, I'm almost starving." Since the wedding date was confirmed, Xiao Jiao has done nothing else these days but has been busy choosing wedding dresses and trying on wedding dresses. Although Li Jie has decided to hold a Chinese-style Hanfu wedding, the wedding photos will be taken in both Chinese and Western styles. Which girl doesn't look forward to the day she puts on her wedding dress? In the past few days, Xiao Jiao visited 3 or 4 large wedding dress stores, tried on more than a dozen wedding dresses, and bought 5 or 6 wedding dresses. As long as it is a wedding dress that she thinks looks good, she will buy it. Anyway, these wedding dresses are very cheap, usually only tens of thousands of yuan. After being with Li Jie for a long time, Xiao Jiao no longer has much concept of money. For ordinary people, 7 to 8,000 yuan is definitely a high-end wedding dress, but she felt it was too cheap. In fact, Li Jie had already ordered a high-end wedding dress worth millions for Xiao Jiao, but she couldn't wait to wear the wedding dress. Trying on a wedding dress is a very tedious and tiring task. Trying on a wedding dress often takes an hour or 2, or even longer. In order to try on the clothes to look good, I couldn't eat in the morning. Xiao Jiao started trying on wedding dresses from this morning until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. During this period, she only ate a few snacks from the store. She was really tired and hungry, and her head felt a little dizzy. She took the pastry in Miao Wenqian's hand and ate 7 or 8 pieces in one go. She also drank more than half a cup of milk tea, and then she felt her stomach was full. Hiccup, Xiao Jiao couldn't help but burp because he ate too fast. She touched her waist and took a breath and said, "Xiao Jian, please give me a strap, it's a bit tight." Xiao Jiao's waist is very thin, and she has been hungry all morning. When she tried on this wedding dress, the straps were tied very tightly, making her waist look even thinner. But now when I eat, I feel tight and panicked. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 513. Miao Wenqian came behind Xiao Jiao and helped her loosen her belt. "Sister, is it okay?" "Okay," Xiao Jiao breathed a sigh of relief. Hiccup, she couldn't help but hiccup again. Then he burped, he couldn't stop burping. "Sister, drink some water and press it down." Miao Wenqian handed her the milk tea again. Xiao Jiao took the milk tea and drank a few sips, but she almost choked when she hiccuped. Cough cough cough. Miao Wenqian hurriedly patted her back and wiped her mouth with a tissue. Seeing his sister's frizzy look, Xiaojin shook his head inwardly. It was really embarrassing for his brother-in-law. After resting for a while and finally suppressing the hiccup, Xiao Jiao continued to try on wedding dresses. Xiaojin and Miao Wenqian stood aside and watched. "I really didn't expect my sister to get married so early," Xiaojin said softly. There was a hint of emotion in his voice. Miao Wenqian said nothing after hearing this. She looked at Xiao Jiao, who was trying on a wedding dress, with a hint of envy in her eyes. What is so good about this girl that she can win the favor of a billionaire? Miao Wenqin really didn't understand why Li Jie chose Xiao Qiao. In her opinion, either Lu Kaiu or Zhou Ziyu was more suitable to become the hostess of a wealthy family than Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao is just an ordinary girl, even a little useless. There is nothing that can help Li Jie. Even she is better than the Xiao Qiao. Is it true that the more successful a man is, the more he likes simpler girls? Shouldn't we say that we are well matched? A wealthy family needs an excellent hostess. Xiao Qiao looked down on Miao Wenqin and thought she was a little fox. In fact, Miao Wenqin also looked down upon Xiao Qiao and thought she was just lucky. To meet such a potential stock like Li Jie in an ordinary college was incredible luck. Beijing, Zidane. The East Hall on the first floor of the library building was buzzing with people, and the queue was hundreds of meters long. Today is the first day that the popular beauty writer Shen Yu comes to Beijing for a book signing. A large number of fans rushed over after hearing the news. The scene was extremely popular and they were surrounded by fans. Although it has been more than 2 hours since the signing and the peak period has passed, there are still many people queuing up. Most of the fans who come are male fans, but there are also many female fans. Many male fans are casual fans who have never read Shen Yu's works at all. They bought a book at random and came over with the excuse of asking for an autograph, just to see how beautiful this first beautiful writer is. However, anyone who comes will not be disappointed. She is 10 times more beautiful in person than in photos. A large number of photos of passers-by were exposed online, causing countless discussions among netizens. Suddenly Chen Yu's popularity almost caught up with that of a popular star. Thanks for your support. After Zhou Ziyu signed an autograph for a female fan who looked like a high school student, a male fan came forward. He is tall, wearing a peaked cap on his head, a mask and sunglasses on his face, covering his face tightly, making him a bit mysterious. Zhou Ziyu just glanced at the other person casually, took the book and started signing it. On the contrary, the bodyguards on both sides of her were staring at the man warily. After Zhou Ziyu finished signing, the man took the book but did not leave immediately. Instead, he glanced at her and said, "Can I give her a hug?" After hearing this, Zhou Ziyu shook her head without hesitation and said, "Sorry, I don't follow male fans." However, just as she was speaking, she suddenly realized something and looked at the man in surprise. "Husband, why are you here?" The word husband was spoken by Zhou Ziyu through her mouth. Li Jie smiled and said, "Of course I came to see you." Then, he also mouthed, "It's been so long, don't you miss me?" After hearing this, a bright smile appeared on Zhou Ziyu's face, and her beautiful face looked even more alluring. "It will take a while for me to finish." "It's okay, I'll wait for you in the car." Occasionally create some small surprises for your girlfriend. Of course, this kind of surprises should not be too frequent. If it is too frequent, the other party may not be interested in it, and instead, you will become a bitch. The autograph session ended on time at 5:30 p.m. Those who were still queuing up and didn't get their autographs couldn't help but complain, and then dispersed one after another. In the past, Zhou Ziyu would definitely extend the signing time and try to sign more people, but today she had no such intention. After dealing with the people from the publishing house and the book building, she took her bodyguard to the parking lot, walked to a cool blue Ferrari F458, opened the door and got in. "Husband, are you anxious about waiting?" "No, I won't be annoyed no matter how long I wait for you." Seeing her coming, Li Jie smiled and put away his phone. Learning to make full use of time to take care of each girlfriend is the most basic condition for being an excellent and good man. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Li Jie with a smile, knowing that he was just talking sweet words, but she still liked to listen. "You've been signing autographs all afternoon, you must be very tired, right?" Li Jie reached out and hugged her over. "It's okay, but my hands are very sore," Zhou Ziyu said while rubbing her slender, white, and tender hands. Suddenly, she noticed something strange in Li Jie's eyes, and said with an angry smile, "Hubby, what are you thinking about?" "I didn't think about anything." "You are overthinking." Li Jie chuckled and started the car. "Let's go, I'll take you to dinner first." Li Jie took Josio to a nearby specialty barbecue restaurant. In view of her hard work today, he took special care of Josio during this meal and fed it to her without her needing to use her chopsticks. "Husband, why are you so nice to me today?" Josio felt that Li Jie was abnormal. "I wonder if he has any bad intentions." Li Jie just smiled and did not answer. He picked up a piece of barbecue, dipped it in some seasoning and put it on the lettuce. After wrapping it, he put it to Josio's mouth. "You worked hard today, eat more meat." Josio glanced at him, opened his mouth and ate the barbecue. "Here, have another piece." Li Jie picked up another piece of barbecue. Not to mention, feeding girls like this, especially pretty girls, is quite enjoyable. So pretty and delicious. "Husband, don't always feed me, eat it yourself." Seeing that Li Jie just kept feeding her meat without eating it himself, Josio couldn't help but say. Li Jie glanced at her with a meaningful smile, "I want to feed you first, and then I can eat meat." When she met his eyes, Josio immediately understood something, bit her lip, and a blush appeared on her pretty face, which was extremely touching. Seeing her charming appearance, Li Jie couldn't help but feel hot in his heart, and almost had to execute her on the spot. No rush, no rush. If he doesn't let her cry to death tonight, he will change his surname to Joe from her. After finishing the meal, Li Jie took Josio to Bihai Park. Park, Josio looked around, a little surprised. She thought he would be eager to take her home. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something and said, "Husband, don't you mean?" Li Jie was stunned for a moment before he realized what she meant. He said angrily, "You still said that I was thinking nonsense. What are you thinking about? Am I such a ridiculous person in your mind?" Josio didn't say anything after hearing this, but just glanced at him, his eyes saying everything. Li Jie suddenly lost his composure and pulled her to a remote place. "Husband, what are you doing? Grant your wish." "Hubby, it's better not to give up," Josio said coquettishly. Li Jie stopped and looked at her. "Do you dare to slander me again in the future?" "I don't dare anymore." Josio shook her head obediently and said. Li Jie smiled, hugged her and walked along the river. "I just want to take you here for a walk and enjoy the night view. If you don't want to go shopping, we will go back." "Yeah," Josio snorted lightly. "Well, what do you mean? Do you want to go shopping or don't you want to go shopping?" "Want to go shopping." Li Jie turned to look at her and smiled in his heart. Don't be impatient when dealing with a girl. Make her happy first, and don't just do whatever you want. The night view of Bihai Park is extremely beautiful, with faint lights, light hanging willow leaves, calm lake water, and a quiet night. Although it was getting late, there were still many tourists in the park, including many young couples, but no matter who they were, they would show surprise after seeing Josio. A boy couldn't help but look back twice, and was scolded by his jealous girlfriend. For a man, having such a beautiful girlfriend by his side is the greatest face. After walking through Yong'an Bridge, Li Jie took Josio to Kyanghua Island. Looking at the magnificent scenery formed by the neon lights reflected on the water, Josio couldn't help but exclaimed, "This scenery is so beautiful." Li Jie hugged her tightly from behind and enjoyed the beautiful scenery with her. "Xiao, if you like it, we can hang out more often in the future." "Husband, can you stop being so nice to me?" Josio suddenly said softly. Li Jie was stunned for a moment after hearing this. "Why do you say that?" "I'm just a little scared." Although Josio didn't say what he was afraid of, Li Jie already understood. "Xiao, you are as important to me as Xiao Qiao, but there has to be a first come, first served basis, and it will be difficult if the rules are messed up." Zhou didn't say anything more. Li Jie was very good to her and gave her far more than Xiao Qiao. It stands to reason that she should be content even if she is just a lover, but she really wants to be with Li Jie side by side instead of standing behind him all the time. Things like feelings are not something you can just give into. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't help but say first come, first served. Li Jie and Zhou didn't visit much and left at almost 8 o'clock. It is spring in the north, and Bihai Park is only open until 8 p.m. After driving away from Bihai Park, Li Jie went back to the apartment without taking Zhou anywhere else. Half an hour later, the cool Ferrari sports car drove into the Palm Springs International apartment and stopped in the underground parking lot. "We're home," Zhou said, unbuckling her seat belt and about to get out of the car, but was pulled back by Li Jie. "Husband, what are you doing?" Li Jie didn't speak. With burning eyes, he lowered his head and kissed her roughly. The interior space of the sports car is too small, and it's a bit hard to maneuver. Don't get me wrong, I'm talking about driving. Is this noon? Li Jie was a little confused after waking up. He looked at the time on the wall and found that it was past noon and it was almost 2 p.m. Li Jie sighed softly and sat up from the bed, feeling exhausted all over and his head was groggy. Last night he fulfilled his promise, which really made Zhou cry to death, but he himself was also exhausted. To be honest, Li Jie had never been so tired before. He felt like he was half dead. He looked around and found that Zhou was no longer there, probably going to a book signing. Does she still have the energy to go to the book signing? Li Jie suddenly remembered a saying, there are only exhausted cows and no damaged fields. On the surface, he won last night, but in fact, he completely lost. This is just Zhou. What if 4, 5 of them are together? Thinking of this, Li Jie couldn't help but shudder. You can't be so indulgent anymore, or you will die young sooner or later. He has tens of billions of assets, 4 beautiful girlfriends and friends, and many beautiful lovers, but he doesn't want to die early at all. Beep beep. At this moment, the phone suddenly rang. Li Jie picked up the phone and took a look. It was Shu Sudan calling. After chatting for a few words, he hung up the phone. No appointment, he just wants to rest now. For men in the sage time, no matter how beautiful a woman is, there is no attraction. Chaoyang Park autograph signing site. Zhou wore a red coat with a high collar lining, and a pair of large sunglasses and a mask on her face. She couldn't do it without wearing high-collared clothes. Her white neck and collarbone were covered with dark marks like strawberries. It has nothing to do with Li Jie, it was all mosquito bites. What? Why are there mosquitoes in Beijing in March? Of course it's because of the abnormal weather. As for why she wore sunglasses, it was because her eyes were swollen from crying. Not only were her eyes swollen from crying, her voice was also hoarse. Zhou weakly took the book from a little female fan, opened the page and signed her name on it. Seeing that she was in a bad state, the little female fan said with concern, "Sister Chen Yu, are you feeling uncomfortable? If you feel uncomfortable, stop insisting." The staff next to me also said, "Writer Joe, why don't you take a break first?" Okay, Zhou didn't hold on any longer and nodded. If she didn't want to disappoint her fans by breaking the appointment, she would have cancelled the event and not come. Her whole body was sore and weak now, she couldn't lift her spirits at all, and just wanted to sleep. Zhou regretted a little. She shouldn't have flirted with Li Jie so much. Not only did he hurt her body, she also suffered too much. She didn't want to suffer such a crime again. Time passed and it soon entered April. After April, the weather in Shanghai became hotter and hotter. Many young girls couldn't wait to put on cool skirts and short sleeves, exposing their white arms and calves. In early April, Li Jie purchased a large luxury business jet from abroad, a Gulfstream G550. The Gulfstream G550 is currently one of the most luxurious business jets in the world. It is worth 327 million. It can carry 14-18 passengers and has a long range. It can easily fly directly from Shanghai to Los Angeles, Chicago, and other cities in the western United States. In fact, Leisure originally just wanted to buy a medium-sized business aircraft, a Gulfstream 350. A luxury business jet like the Gulfstream G550 is a bit too high profile at its current price. It would take a year or two to customize a private jet, and Gulfstream happened to have a ready-made Gulfstream G550, so he simply bought the aircraft. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 514. This aircraft was originally customized by a wealthy South American man, but the other party encountered a financial crisis and had no money to pay the balance, so the manufacturer resold the aircraft at a low price. Leisure bought the plane for us $50 million. The procedures for buying a private jet are very cumbersome. You must first find an aircraft hosting company, sign an aircraft hosting agreement, and then submit the aircraft purchase application form to the Civil Aviation Administration of China. The next step is to recruit pilots and maintenance personnel. The aircraft manufacturer will provide training for pilots and maintenance personnel. After completing a series of locking procedures, the plane can be transported back to the country. Private jets need to pay customs duties, value-added tax, and other fees to pass customs, which are generally around 17% of the total price of the jet, which is approximately $9 million. With just this amount of money, you can buy a top-notch luxury car. Once the aircraft is delivered to the country, it is not ready to fly directly. It must be reported to the Civil Aviation Administration of China, and the aircraft airworthiness license and nationality registration certificate of the aircraft must be obtained. Each time it takes off, it must also apply for a route in advance. The cost of hosting an aircraft is also extremely high. For a large business jet like the Gulfstream G550, the cost of hosting a year is 20 to 30 million. Private jets can be said to be the most expensive luxury goods, far beyond the comparison of luxury cars and luxury watches. Leisure's Gulfstream G550 is in the name of the company, and the company will pay for the purchase of the aircraft and subsequent custody and flight expenses. Nominally, this plane is also used to facilitate the travel of company employees, not for his personal enjoyment. Company money and personal money are completely different things. Leisure currently holds more than 1.4 billion in personal funds, mainly stocks and real estate. He also injects capital into the company through loans, that is, he lends his personal money to the company under his name. The company will not only have to pay him back in the future, but also pay interest. Most of the money he used to enjoy himself was paid by the company. For example, the various luxury cars he and Xiao Qiao drove were all in the name of the company. The purchase contract for this Gulfstream G550 was signed in early April, but it will take at least 3 or 4 months to transport the aircraft to China and go through all the complicated approval procedures. However, before the plane arrived, Li Jie started recruiting flight attendants. In order to enjoy better service, he plans to recruit more beautiful stewardesses. He doesn't just do this for his own enjoyment. Executives of the flight company and its artists can apply to use it. After completing a month-long autograph signing event in 13 cities across the country, Zhou Ziyu entered the vacation period after returning to the Shanghai stock market. This month, she felt exhausted physically and mentally from flying all over the country to book signings. That guy Li Jie was very inhumane and always came over to bully her. Once in Beijing, when she went to Hangzhou and Sanya to sign books, he came again. That time in Hangzhou, Li Jie very romantically booked a movie theater to watch a movie with her, but he started bullying her just halfway through the movie. That time in Sanya, he even tricked her into going to the beach in the name of watching the sunrise. As a result, sunrise didn't watch, and she was bullied to death by him again. Li Jie said he should exercise restraint and not indulge anymore, but he only said it and refused to change. Zhou was even a little lucky that Xiao Qiao and the others were here, otherwise she would have been bullied to death by him. During her days off, Zhou conceived her new book The Beginning every day, and spent time shopping, drinking afternoon tea, and going to the spa with her socialite best friends. This is also the life she wants most. After Xiao Qiao tried on wedding dresses for nearly a month and bought dozens of wedding dresses, the excitement finally passed. She has always kept her marriage a secret, rarely showing off. I am just afraid that someone will cause damage and cause troubles. If that Joe Fox knew that she was about to marry Li Jie, he would definitely try every means to obstruct and sabotage it. At that time, Xiao Qiao was really afraid that she could not control herself, so she stabbed her with scissors. She can tolerate other things, but if anyone dares to ruin her wedding with Li Jie, she will fight to the death. Lu Kaiu has been busy assessing and rectifying employees for more than a month. She works overtime until 8 or 9 in the evening every day, even busier than her boss Li Jie. After the company was reorganized, the company's atmosphere was completely new. After absorbing more middle and high-end management talents, management became more formalized and team-based, and the company truly shifted from rule of man to institutionalization. After this reorganization, Lu Kaiu's prestige in the company has been established. As Kudong Group becomes larger and larger, Li Jie will definitely have to gradually delegate power, and in the future, the specific management of the company will be handed over to the management. He is only responsible for controlling the company's development direction and formulating development strategies. This requires someone he trusts to restrict the company's management. Li Jie's temporary candidates are Lu Kaiu and Bai Wei. Shen Xinyi recently had the idea of filming an online short series. Nowadays, there are many people making online short dramas and major online movies. This period was originally the period of the rise and development of online dramas and major online movies. Under the influence of Li Jie, the development speed of online dramas has become faster. The popularity of Moon Hotel, Princess's promotion, and unexpectedly has caused many film and television companies to focus on online dramas that they did not pay attention to at all. At present, the review of online dramas is much looser than that of Taiwanese dramas. It is not so troublesome to sell directly to video platforms instead of selling to TV stations. Originally, web dramas and big web movies were just created by some amateurs. Popular web dramas such as Raw Film, Happy Little 2B, and College Students Living Together were all produced by some art school students and taken by ordinary people. Now that film and television companies have participated in advance, the online drama market has also seen a trend of early prosperity. As soon as Shen Xian saw a story on the internet, she thought it was good, so she bought the copyright of the story, turned it into a script, and prepared to make it into a web drama. The plot is roughly the story of two female college students who met due to a misunderstanding, worked part-time, started a business, and grew up together. Shen Xinyi also showed the script she wrote to Li Jie and asked for his opinion. Li Jie encouraged her on the surface, but in his heart he was not optimistic about the short drama. This story is still very good, but a good story does not necessarily mean there is a market. There is simply no market for youth friendship and inspirational dramas in China. Struggle was filmed as a love triangle and a father-in-law fight. The Age of Entrepreneurship was filmed as The Age of Love. The producer and director's decision to shoot like this is inseparable from the market. The audience for domestic TV dramas is mainly female. They are not interested in content such as youth friendship and inspiration at all. They only want to watch love. Therefore, no matter what the theme of domestic dramas is, whether it is workplace, military, or firefighting, the core is always about falling in love, and it is very bloody. Even though he knew that the web series Shenzhenyi was going to shoot was not marketable, Li Jie had no intention of interfering. The investment for such an online short drama is only a few 100,000, so let her play if she wants to. This Shen Guiguai is now a young woman, no, she is a young rich girl. It is not painful for her to pay hundreds of thousands. At the end of April, Li Jie reformed Cuckoo Star Training Camp, an artist training class under Cuckoo Entertainment, and changed its name to Cuckoo Film and Television Performance Training School. It is no longer just a performance training institution, it will recruit full-time art candidates for long-term training like a regular art school. The school's first batch of students will be recruited in June this year. It is expected to have 5 majors, including film and television performance, film and television directing, and broadcasting and hosting, and will recruit more than 100 students. Li Jie plans to build this school into the first private professional art school in China. In the future, the threshold for becoming a star will become higher and higher, and it will become increasingly difficult for ordinary people with no money or background to get ahead, even if they are admitted to the top domestic artist schools. During the art exam, there was even a new term called amateur candidate, which is a candidate who has no contact with the entertainment industry at all. Compared with celebrity candidates, the probability of amateur candidates passing the exam is greatly reduced. The artists promoted by capital are becoming more and more delicate, which has also led to a serious talent gap. Li Jie established this acting school to give art candidates from ordinary families an extra way out. It is unrealistic for you to expect an artist with money and background to be dedicated and hard-working. There are such exceptions, but they are rare. For the long-term development of the company, Cuckoo Entertainment also needs a professional artist training school. Not only did he set up an acting school, Li Jie also asked Cuckoo Entertainment to push for restrictions on artists' remuneration. According to the first, second, and third lines, set a maximum salary standard for artists. Artists who exceed the standard are not unable to participate in Cuckoo Entertainment's film and television projects, but they must convert the part of their remuneration that exceeds the maximum salary standard into investment. If a movie or TV series succeeds, the actors will make money with the company, and if it fails, they will lose money with them. There is no such thing as being paid a sky-high salary and not having to bear the responsibility for project failure. On April 27, the movie Pacific Rim was released. The film took more than a year to shoot and post-produce, starring Liu Yufei and Di Tiantian. Pacific Rim is also the film with the largest investment by Cuckoo Entertainment at present, with the final production cost of more than 160 million, far exceeding the previous Witch and Lonely Agent. The movie also lived up to expectations, taking in 250 million at the box office in the first 3 days of its release. The media predicts that Pacific Rim may have a box office of over 1 billion, becoming the first domestic film to do so. The audience's reputation is also good, with a Dubon score of 7.8, and everyone says that this film has basically reached the level of a Hollywood blockbuster. Especially the mechas fighting monsters, the scenes are grand and comparable to Transformers. Nowadays, what domestic audiences like to watch most are Hollywood-style blockbusters, with big scenes and high special effects. As for the rationality of the plot, it is not very important. Transformers has so many plot loopholes and flaws, but the audience still enjoys watching it. The fact that Pacific Rim has such a high box office has a lot to do with its schedule. This year, only the new A Chinese Ghost Story and Guan Yunchang are relatively successful on May Day. But both movies failed at the box office. Originally, the new A Chinese Ghost Story did pretty well at the box office, but its reputation was terrible. Without Liu Yufei this time, not only the reputation was bad, but the box office was also hit hard. Just like the movie Playing with Big Star, it was a complete mess. After Liu Yufei declined the role, Quality Idol of 20 Years found a small Taiwanese model to be the female lead. The little model is also good looking, but she is not as popular as Liu Yufei. Although Pacific Rim became a hit, the heroine De Tian Tian was not popular, and became the target of criticism from audiences and film critics, saying that her acting skills were hindered by her bringing money into the film. If the movie box office fails to exceed 1 billion in the end, she will definitely take the blame. The popularity of Liu Yufei, the second female lead, has skyrocketed because of this, and her fans are even more popular. Although Liu Yufei is the second female lead in this movie, her role is no less than that of the female lead De Tian Tian, so she can be regarded as a double female lead. First, Hotel of the Moon was a hit in East and Southeast Asia, and Pacific Rim is expected to become the first domestic movie with a box office of over 1 billion. In the eyes of the media and fans, she has become an Asian goddess, the first among young female stars in China. But she completely forgot that she is actually an American and is not strictly a domestic artist. In 2011, the May Day holiday was 3 days. It is said to be 3 days, but in fact it is only 1 day, May 2nd and 3rd, which are originally Saturday and Sunday. On the day of the 2nd, Li Jie went to the company for a walk in the morning and then left and went to a nearby movie theater. Liu Yufei was already waiting for him at the entrance of the cinema. She wore a sun hat, a mask, and sunglasses, covering herself tightly. Not only him, Li Jie also did some covering up, wearing a hat and a mask. He is now considered a celebrity, and people occasionally recognize him when walking on the street. Brother Jie, seeing Li Jie coming, Liu Yufei showed a bright smile on her face. "Come on, let's go in." Li Jie also smiled, put his arm around her shoulders, and they walked into the cinema together. The two made an appointment to watch Pacific Rim together today. In fact, even though Li Jie and Liu Yufei covered up every time they dated, they were still photographed several times by the media. However, it has never been exposed by the media. It's true that some people on the internet made wild guesses, but they happened to actually guess and really think about it. It seems that the entertainment media dares to expose anything, but in fact they just bully ordinary celebrities who have no backstage. Which media would dare to expose the private lives of big guys like Jack Ma and Pony Ma? Not to mention these big guys, even the truly rich second generation, no entertainment media would dare to expose them. That is to say, Richard Liu was careless abroad and fell into someone else's trap, so his private life was exposed. Let people know that the tastes of rich bosses are no different from ordinary people, and they are not that high-end. There are many people in the cinema on weekends, many of whom are couples out on dates. Li Jie queued up to buy 2 movie tickets, and then walked into the screening hall with Liu Yufei. The theater had a high occupancy rate, and when the lights dimmed and the movie started showing, the entire theater was almost full. This is because Pacific Rim has just been released a few days ago and is very popular. Plus, there are so many people during the May Day holiday. Liu Yufei looked around and was surprised by such a high attendance rate. She glanced at Li Jie and said, "Brother Jie, do you think this movie's box office can really exceed 1 billion? It's probably difficult." Li Jie shook his head and said, "A Hollywood-style blockbuster like Pacific Rim lacks box office stamina, and its general box office breakout period is only the first 2 weeks. However, the box office will be at least 800 million. While Li Jie and Liu Yufei were watching a movie together, Zhou Ziyu was also drinking coffee with several socialite best friends in a coffee shop by the West Lake in Hangzhou. She invited Zhu Qinlin and the others to hang out in Hangzhou. A girl said something interesting, and Zhu Qinlin and the others couldn't help but chuckle. With a faint smile on her face, Zhou Ziyu picked up the coffee and took a sip. Suddenly, she felt a little nauseous and couldn't help but frown. "Ziyu, what's wrong with you?" Zhou Qinlin noticed her expression. "I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Liu Enjie. Chapter 515. Zhou Ziyu was stunned for a moment, and then thought of something. He was surprised, happy, and a little unbelievable. Tsuyu, seeing Joseo stunned, Zhu Qinlin called her again. Several other girls also looked at her. What's wrong? Joseo came to his senses and tried his best to suppress the surprise in his heart. We're not sure yet, so don't get too happy yet. Tsuyu, are you happy? Noticing the unconcealed meaning on her face, a girl with fashionable clothes and elegant temperament asked with a smile. This girl's name is Kornya. She runs a leisure club. Her background is not the biggest among the girls, but her social circle is the widest. No, Joseo chuckled. No? There must be. Isn't it that good things are about to happen for you and Lee? Have morning tea, visit the West Lake, eat, go to the spa. Joseo, Zhu Qinlin and other girls played until around 9 o'clock in the evening, and then sent them to a 5-star hotel. After coming out of the hotel, she, Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi got into a lava orange Porsche Cayenne. This Cayenne was recently bought by Joseo. It is a limited edition in lava orange and is very beautiful. Sports cars just look cool, but in terms of comfort, you still have to choose a high-end SUV like the Cayenne. Tsuyu, shall we go home? Lu Yingqi, who had sat in the driver's seat, turned around and asked. Joseo pondered for a moment and said, let's go to the pharmacy first. Go to the pharmacy? Ziu, are you feeling uncomfortable? Lu Ji asked with concern. She and Lu Yingqi have been with Joseo for almost 3 years, and their relationship has become extremely close. Besides, being a bodyguard for a rich man's girlfriend is a really great job, with high wages, good benefits, and the opportunity to travel around, stay in high-end hotels, and eat big meals. Joseo, the employer, also has a great personality. He treats them like sisters, often giving them gifts and caring about their lives. There is nothing missing from following her. No, Joseo smiled. I'm just going to buy something. Tsuyu, can any pharmacy be used? Lu Yingqi asked again. Well, just find any pharmacy. Noticing that there was a pharmacy not far ahead, Lu Yingqi drove over and stopped in front of the pharmacy. Joseo opened the car door and walked out of the car gracefully. She turned to Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi and said, I can just go in by myself. Just wait for me in the car. Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi looked at each other and said, Tsuyu, we'd better accompany you in. Li Jia emphasized to them many times that they must follow Joseo at all times and never let her be alone. The two of them didn't want to lose this rare and good job because of a little negligence. Okay, then Yingqi, please accompany me in. Joseo also knew that it was impossible for them to let her go anywhere alone, even if they could roughly see the situation in the drugstore from the outside. She took out a mask from her handbag and put it on her face, then took Lu Yingqi into the pharmacy. Seeing Joseo and Lu Yingqi walking in, a young female doctor in her mid-20s greeted behind the counter, Miss, do you want to buy medicine? Not far away, another girl in her 30s also looked over. Although Joseo is wearing a mask, it can be seen that she is a great beauty. I want to buy some pregnancy test sticks, Joseo said generously. The young female doctor was stunned for a moment. Oh, okay. Miss, I recommend you buy this pregnancy test stick, which is more accurate. As she spoke, she took out a pregnancy test stick from the counter. Buying a pregnancy test? Standing on Joseo, Lu Yingqi showed obvious surprise on his face. Could it be? Lu Yingqi looked at Joseo and felt very happy for her. She and Lu Ji both follow Joseo, and they naturally hope that Joseo can win the competition. They both also felt from the bottom of their hearts that Joseo and Li Jie were more suitable. Xiao Qiao is also very good, but his character is a bit immature. Joseo did not just choose the pregnancy test stick recommended by the young female doctor, but bought 2 more from other brands. After the checkout was completed, she put the pregnancy test sticks into her handbag and left with Lu Yingqi. After walking out of the pharmacy, Joseo glanced at Lu Ji, who was standing by the car not far away, and said softly, Yingqi, I hope you can keep this matter a secret for me. When Lu Yingqi heard this, he quickly said, Tsuyu, don't worry, I will never tell anyone. When she returned to her small apartment in Hangzhou, Zhou put on a loose nightgown, picked up her handbag and went to the bathroom. In the living room, watching Zhou hurriedly walk into the bathroom, Lu Ji turned to look at the dazed Lu Yingqi and asked curiously, Yingqi, what did you and Zhou buy at the drugstore? Although Zhou's small apartment is 60 or 70 square meters, it only has one room. Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi can only sleep in the living room. Oh. I didn't buy anything. Lu Yingqi came back to her senses and said a little unnaturally. What didn't you buy? Lu Ji looked at her with suspicion. In the bathroom, Zhou took out 3 pregnancy test sticks from her handbag, feeling excited, nervous, looking forward to, and uneasy at the same time. She and Li Jie have been together for more than 3 years, but they have never been able to get pregnant. For this reason, she went to countless hospitals and tried many methods, but she just couldn't get what she wanted. He even let Wang Haining take the lead. By this year, Zhou had basically given up and no longer thought about pregnancy. If it was destined that she would not have that fate, then she would admit it and give it to Xiaojiao. So even though her relatives postponed her visit last month and never came, Zhou didn't think much about it. It is not uncommon for relatives to postpone things before. She mistakenly thought she was pregnant and rushed to the hospital for a checkup, only to find out she was pregnant. It wasn't until she suddenly felt nauseous while having coffee with Zhu Qinlin and the others this morning that she realized something was wrong. Zhou suddenly remembered that a female doctor told her that pregnancy should not be rushed and should be allowed to take its course. The more anxious you are to get pregnant, the less likely you are to get pregnant. As long as both men and women are healthy, they will get pregnant sooner or later. It seemed that what the female doctor said was true. She was anxious to get pregnant but couldn't get pregnant. Now she no longer thought about getting pregnant, but she suddenly became pregnant. If she was really pregnant, it would have been the time she and Li Jie were in Sanya. However, don't get too happy too soon. Let's finish the test first. 2 bars. Still 2 bars. Well, why is this second bar a little shallow? Zhou looked at the 3 pregnancy test sticks in her hand and giggled. She smiled and felt a little tempted to cry. She reached out and touched her flat belly without a trace of fat. Child, are you here to help mom? Zhou felt that this was God asking her to fight, otherwise why would she have gotten pregnant at this time? Thinking like this, she took out her phone and couldn't wait to share the good news with Li Jie. But the next moment, Zhou restrained himself again. It's just that the pregnancy test stick is not 100% sure of pregnancy. Besides, even if she told Li Jie about the pregnancy, would he change his mind? Very unlikely. Li Jie had obviously made up his mind before, otherwise he wouldn't have hinted to her many times to give way to Xiaojiao. The so-called whoever gets pregnant first will marry first is just a kind of appeasement. Zhou let out a breath, thoughtfully. If she can't get pregnant, she can give it to Xiaojiao. But now that she has a child, she must seize this last chance even for the sake of her child. Whether or not you have a birthright will have a huge impact on your child's future. If there is no status, it is considered an illegitimate child, and an illegitimate child cannot be seen in the light. This cannot be solved by Li Jie saying that he will treat everyone equally. Xiaojiao, I'm sorry, Zhou said silently in her heart. She didn't want to hurt Xiaojiao anymore, but she had to do it. Xiaojiao thought that what she did was very secretive, but she didn't know that Zhou had already noticed the clues. At noon the next day, Zhou and Lu Yingqi walked out of the hospital building together. Zhou thought about the doctor's words in her mind. Congratulations, you are indeed pregnant. Seeing Zhou and the others walking out, Lu Ji, who was guarding outside, immediately came to greet them. Looking at Zhou, who was in a daze, and then at Lu Ji, whose face was filled with joy. She vaguely guessed something. At this time, Zhou Ziyu came to his senses and said, "Let's go back to Shanghai." She wanted to discuss it with someone. This was her last chance, and she had to seize it. Xiao Jiao opened his lazy eyes, scratched his messy long hair, stretched and sat up from the soft big bed, and couldn't help but yawn. "Is it 10 o'clock?" She glanced at the time on the wall. After choosing a wedding dress and passing the postgraduate re-examination, Xiao Jiao continued to lie down while looking forward to the wedding. Last night she stayed up until 3 or 4 in the morning watching the drama. In April, Kudong Video launched another online drama, Reply 1988. The actors in this drama are basically newcomers, and the filming and broadcasting mode is rare in China. The filming progress is very fast. However, after being broadcast online, Reply 1988 caused a great response on the internet and became extremely popular. The limelight completely overshadowed the hot Bulletin Jing Xin. Xiao Jiao didn't follow this drama originally, but started watching it last night after listening to Shenzhenyi's Mwei. As a result, I became addicted to it as soon as I watched it, and I finished watching the more than 10 updated episodes in one go. Xiao Jiao felt that the carefree, nervous, unwilling to study, lively and cheerful heroine in the play was herself. It would be great if Li Jie could be like the male protagonist Ace. She liked Ace's character so much. He was smart and cute, sensitive yet attentive, gentle and dedicated, introverted but not timid. If he had a choice, Xiao Jiao would rather Li Jie was not so successful and was still an ordinary student with some talent. The first semester of her freshman year was her happiest day. Why do I feel a little panicked all of a sudden? It's not that Zhou Huhu wants to make bad ideas again, right? If she dares to make bad ideas again, I'll stab her. Xiao Jiao muttered while getting up from the bed to wash up. After washing up, she went to the kitchen to find some food from the refrigerator and took it back to the bedroom. Xiao Jiao actually envied Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shenzhenyi. Each of them had their own goals, but she didn't know what to do. Li Jie helped her arrange the postgraduate entrance examination and become a college teacher. She could neither like nor dislike it. But I just want to lie down flat. Xiao Jiao thinks it's good to be with Li Jie like this, but it would be better if they don't have Joe Fox. Why do we have to work so hard and live so tiringly? It's not like Li Jie couldn't afford to support her. She doesn't have high requirements. If she has money, she will spend more. If she doesn't have money, she will spend less. As long as she can have enough to eat. She is not the money-worshipping girl like Zhou Huhu. She just comes here for money. If she doesn't have money, she will definitely run away. Why can't that guy Li Jie recognize the true face of that vixen? Humph, I'm a bitch, and I was stunned by a beautiful vixen. With such random thoughts, Xiao Jiao returned to the room and put the food on the bedside table. Then she went to bed again, took the Apple iPad, and played with the tablet while eating. A good-for-nothing girlfriend can't live without the bed. Xiao Jiao is reading the travel guide. Li Jie promised her that after getting married, he would spare a week for the two of them to travel together for their honeymoon. Paris, Rome, Aegean Sea, Maldives? Where to go? Xiao Jiao read the travel guide for a few days, but the more he read, the less he knew where to go. It's a pity that it only lasts 7 days. She sighed softly and put down the tablet. Why are you a little flustered again? On the edge of the Bund, there is a small high-rise commercial and residential apartment. What did you say? You're pregnant. Zhou Qing was surprised and happy, and stood up from her chair in excitement. She looked at Zhou Ziyu and asked again unconvinced, Xiao, are you really pregnant? Zhou Ziyu nodded lightly, the joy on his face undisguised. I went to the hospital for a checkup. That's great. Zhou Qing was overjoyed and walked back and forth twice excitedly. It has been more than 3 years. Not only Zhou Ziyu has given up hope of getting pregnant, but Zhou Qing, the mother-in-law, is also discouraged. In the past, she would always give Zhou Ziyu advice and solutions, calculate the days, find opportunities, etc., and also did a lot of tricks. Now she only visits the temple occasionally, placing her hopes on the illusory gods. At this time, Zhou Qing suddenly learned that Zhou Ziyu was pregnant, and Zhou Qing was extremely surprised. What's more important is that her daughter is pregnant, and her position as mother-in-law is completely secured. By the way, have you told Xiaoji the good news? Zhou Ziyu shook his head. I haven't told him yet. Why didn't you tell him? I'm not ready yet. Zhou Qing looked her daughter up and down and couldn't help but said, Xiao, why are you so smart and do stupid things? No matter what your plans are, you should tell Xiaoji this good news as soon as possible. Zhou Ziyu was stunned for a moment and then reacted. She did indeed do this wrong. If it were Xiao Qiao, he would definitely not think so much and would excitedly tell Li Jie the good news as soon as possible. What Li Jie was worried about was that she was too smart and too thoughtful. Zhou Qing continued, Xiao, are you worried? Now that you are pregnant, can you still not compete with that Xiao Qiao? After hearing this, the joy on Zhou Ziyu's face faded. If she was even half sure that Li Jie could change his mind, she wouldn't come to Zhou Qing. She didn't think her mother could come up with any good ideas, but there was really no one to discuss it with. He is a very emotional person and misses old friendships too much, Zhou Ziyu said with a sigh. She was so excited that she couldn't sleep last night and thought about it for a long time. Why can't she compete with Xiao Qiao? Li Jie is worried that she is too smart. Are you afraid of breaking the rules on a first-come, first-served basis? There are all these reasons, but they are not the root cause. Just because Xiao Qiao followed him first. If she could meet Li Jie first, then he would choose her. It's that simple. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 516. After listening to Zhou Ziyu's analysis, Zhou Qing's face was obviously troubled. This is not going to be easy. It's a good thing that Li Jie is nostalgic for his old relationship. If we follow the normal logic of ordinary rich people, their mother and daughter are from such low backgrounds. They can just play around and marry home without even thinking about it. However, there is a bit of ambiguity in this statement. Zhou Qing frowned, thought for a while and said, Xiao, since Xiaoji's mind is hard to change, you can only hope that Xiao Qiao will make mistakes. She paused, stared at her daughter and said in a deep voice, if she doesn't make mistakes, you have to find a way to make her make mistakes. How can a woman who has been with many men and has been at the bottom of the mixed-race world for many years be a kind person? Zhou Ziyu was silent after hearing this, and didn't speak for a long time. Seeing her like this, Zhou Qing couldn't help but say, Xiao, you must not be soft-hearted at this time. Even if you don't think about yourself, you still have to think about the child in your belly. She didn't believe that her daughter's intelligence would not have thought of this. Zhou Ziyu looked hesitant and difficult to make a decision. She had actually thought of the method Zhou Qing said. Since Li Jie is nostalgic for his old relationship, it will be difficult for Xiao Qiao to change his mind as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes. Then find a way to make her make mistakes and be stupid. With Xiao Qiao's character, as long as she is stimulated too much, she is likely to do impulsive and irrational things. But this is a lose-lose approach. Zhou Ziyu has followed Li Jie for more than 3 years and knows that he is very alert. When she first came into contact with Li Jie, he was too wary and defensive about her. If she moves too much, he will definitely notice her. Will Li Jie tolerate and compromise? The possibility is very small, even if she has his child. Li Jie has a gentle personality, but he is not weak. He never cares about small things, but he never gives in on matters of principle. Besides, Zhou Ziyu was not willing to harm Xiao Qiao excessively. It was not right for her to snatch Li Jie before. If she resorts to cruel methods again, she will really become a bad woman. Seeing that Zhou Ziyu was still hesitant, Zhou Qing really hated the fact that iron cannot become steel. Xiao, what are you still hesitating about? Her daughter is smart, but she is not cruel enough. How can you do it if you're not ruthless enough to rob a man? Otherwise, she would snatch Li Jie away by any means necessary. Zhou Qing never thought that if Zhou Ziyu really had the same personality as her, would Li Jie still like her? Zhou Ziyu shook his head, okay. Mom, stop talking and let me think about it myself. After all, her personality is different from Zhou Qing's, not as cruel as her. After relying on Li Jie, her heart became softer. Comfortable surroundings make people weak. Zhou Ziyu left Zhou Qing's small apartment with tangled thoughts. Tsuyu, where are we going? Lu Ji asked softly. She and Lu Yingqi also saw that Zhou Ziyu was in a bad mood. Where to go? Zhou Ziyu came to his senses and didn't know what to do or where to go. Let's just walk around. Without driving, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Ji, and Lu Yingqi just wandered around the bund. Passers-by couldn't help but take a second look after seeing Zhou Ziyu. In fact, Zhou Ziyu didn't dress up much today and just wore a skirt casually. But if you are beautiful, you will look good in whatever you wear, even if you are wrapped in a floral curtain, you will look good. After wandering aimlessly for a while, Zhou Ziyu's eyes suddenly fell on a hotel across the road. The hotel has an old architectural style and looks very old. The 4 words Captain's Hotel are written on the plaque. Zhou Ziyu crossed the road and came to the door of the hotel, looked up, and then walked in. Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi, who were following her, looked at each other and followed her in. They didn't understand why Zhou Ziyu came to this hotel. There were 2 waiters at the front desk, a man and a woman. They were all surprised when they saw Zhou Ziyu walking in. Miss, do you want to stay? The waitress glanced at Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi behind Zhou Ziyu and asked. Do you still have rooms in your hotel? Zhou Ziyu asked. She heard Li Jie say that he and Xiao Qiao stayed at the old Captain Youth Hotel when they first came to Shanghai. Sorry, the first-class cabin, standard room, in our hotel is fully booked, and only the sailor cabin, rooms for 5 and 7 people, has beds left, the waitress said. Today is the last day of the May Day holiday. During the holiday, hotels in Shanghai are basically full. Zhou Ziyu nodded after hearing this. You have a bar upstairs in your hotel, right? The male waiter spoke first and said, yes, the bar on the top floor of our hotel has a very good view, especially the viewing terrace. You can enjoy the view of the bund while tasting wine. Miss, you can try it out. Okay, I get it. After Zhou Ziyu finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the elevator. The waiter then said, Miss, do you want to go to the bar? I'll take you there. Sorry to trouble you, Zhou Ziyu smiled and said. Seeing her smile, the male waiter was a little flattered. No, this is what we should do. The waitress looked at the male waiter strangely. They had no obligation to guide guests to the bar. Beautiful women are treated preferentially wherever they go, let alone a great beauty like Zhou Ziyu. The bar during the holidays is very lively and crowded, and the seats on the outdoor viewing terrace are even more full. Many people can only stand and drink, enjoying the scenery of the bund. The decoration of this bar is average, but the scenery is really great, with a panoramic view of the bund opposite. The arrival of Zhou Ziyu and the others attracted the attention of everyone in the bar, and they all looked at her. It's not that beauties of her level are uncommon anymore, but most people may never see them in their lifetime. There is a huge difference between looking at photos and videos and seeing a real person in person. No matter how beautiful a photo is, it may not have the same impact as a real person. Many people say online that this celebrity is not good looking and that one is average looking, but if he was given a girlfriend with celebrity looks, he would probably go crazy with joy. Beauty, come and sit at our table, a tall, avant-garde dressed boy in his mid-twenties stood up and invited with a smile. Next to him sat an ordinary boy wearing glasses. Josio just glanced at the boy indifferently, ignored him, walked to the guardrail, blew in the wind, and admired the scenery. Seeing Josio being so disrespectful, the boy couldn't help but froze, looked around, and sat down again. This girl is so beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's a little too cold. It looks familiar, can't it be some celebrity? From time to time, there were faint sounds of discussion around. Two more people came over and tried to strike up a conversation with Josio, but they were stopped by Lu Ji and Lu Yinki. Josio looked at the Huangpu River and the high-rise buildings on the bund opposite. Her mind was up and down, and she thought a lot. What does Li Jie like about Xiao Jiao, and what does he like about her? After thinking for a long time, she finally made up her mind that she could not listen to her mother's ideas. If she had really good means, she wouldn't be so bad at it. She can't be blinded by desire. Even if she loses this time, it doesn't mean she won't have a chance in the future. But if she really violated Li Jie's taboo, she would be completely eliminated. Both she and Xiao Jiao would suffer, which would only benefit Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xian. However, this does not mean that no means are used. If Xiao Jiao makes mistakes and is stupid, it has nothing to do with her. As for Li Jie, doesn't he take soft things rather than hard things? Then she would still overcome strength with softness. Even if she lost this time, she still had to leave a good impression. Even if Li Jie couldn't change his mind, she could give up the position of his first wife to Xiao Jiao, but she would not give up the title of the child. Thinking of this, Josio relaxed, breathed a sigh of relief, turned around and said to Lu Ji and Lu Yinki with a smile, "Let's go back." What did Li Jie do again? Why hasn't he come back yet? He's not going to hook up with the little vixen outside again, is he? Xiao Jiao lay flat for another day. She wanted to go for a walk on the street but was too lazy to move. Even when she goes shopping, she doesn't know what to buy. She lacks everything from clothes to jewelry to cosmetics. She didn't understand that Josio went shopping every day. What was there to do? Aren't you tired? After sitting in the room and watching movies for a long time, Xiao Jiao felt a little bored by the afternoon. She came to the living room while thinking about Li Jie. Looking at the empty living room, Xiao Jiao couldn't help but feel a little lonely and deserted. She would feel annoyed when she saw Josio and the others, but she would feel a little lonely if she stayed alone for a long time. It even feels like arguing with Josio has become a pastime. At this time, there was movement downstairs, as if someone was back. Xiao Jiao came to the stairs and looked down, and found that Josio, Lu Ji, and Lu Yinki were back, carrying a lot of purchased things in their hands. Josio looked up and saw Xiao Jiao, smiled and said, "I bought a lot of food, do you want to eat it?" She seemed to be in a great mood, and she couldn't hide the smile on her face. "Who wants to eat your food?" Xiao Jiao pouted. Josio smiled after hearing this, with a kind of pity in his eyes. Xiao Jiao was very unhappy when she looked at her. "Why are you laughing?" She felt that something was wrong with Zhou Hyugzi today, very abnormal. Suddenly, Josio's expression changed, she covered her mouth and retched, and hurried to the bathroom. Lu Ji and Lu Yinki put down their things and followed. Xiao Jiao was stunned on the spot. What did the fox vomit this week? Is he sick? Thinking about the look in the other person's eyes just now, she had a vague feeling in her heart. Could the fox be pregnant this week? Impossible, absolutely impossible. It had been 3 or 4 years, and none of the 4 of them had gotten pregnant. How could it be such a coincidence that when she was about to marry Li Jie, Fox became pregnant this week? Although Xiao Jiao didn't want to believe it from the bottom of her heart, she became increasingly uneasy. The feeling of panic reappeared in the morning, and it became severe. Li Jie had said that he would marry whoever gets pregnant first among the 4 of them. If Joe Fox is really pregnant. Xiao Jiao clenched her fists and her eyes began to turn red. Joe Fox. She doesn't allow anyone to ruin her wedding. Xiao Jiao really wronged Li Jie. He was not hooking up with some little vixen outside, but was having a meeting in the company. Last year, Bank Y announced the measures for the administration of payment services of non-financial institutions, which required the issuance of payment licenses to rectify and manage the chaotic third-party payment market. At the beginning of this year, Bank Y sent an inspection team to inspect well-known third-party platforms such as ZFB and CFT. Thanks to the efforts of Kudong Group, Kudong Payment Platform was also included in the scope of the investigation, but it did not receive much attention. This morning, Li Jie suddenly got news that Bank Y might soon issue a payment license, so he urgently called all the senior executives on vacation back to the company for a meeting. Whether the first batch of payment licenses can be obtained will have a great impact on the development of Kudong Group. This payment license is indispensable for the development of Kuliao. How else can we send red envelopes? How to collect 5 blessings? That's right, Li Jie is planning to steal ZFB's 5 blessings collection event. However, it is not easy for Kudong Payment Platform to obtain the first batch of payment licenses. The Kudong Payment Platform has been established for too short a time and is relatively small in scale. It just barely meets the application standards. If it hadn't been for the Kuliao publicity war that started last year, which caused the number of users of the Kudong Payment Platform to increase dramatically, Y Bank would not have included the Kudong Payment Platform in the scope of investigation. In comparison, Ari's ZFB and Penguin CFT are almost 100% able to obtain payment licenses in the first batch. If it cannot obtain the first batch of payment licenses, Kudong Group has only 2 options. One is to wait for the second batch of payment licenses, and the other is to acquire companies that hold payment licenses. Gaodong obtained the payment license through the second option. It can be said that Richard Liu did not pay attention to obtaining the payment license as early as possible, which was a huge mistake and seriously affected the development of Gaodong. Gaodong is still using ZFB, which is simply putting its lifeline in the hands of its competitors. If he can get a payment license, Li Jie is ready to help Richard Liu and invest in individual stocks. He has no plans to engage in e-commerce, but this does not prevent him from indirectly controlling a large e-commerce company. Sooner or later, Kudong Group will face off against Ari. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Just when Li Jie and the others were having a meeting, his cell phone on the table suddenly rang. Li Jie picked up the phone and took a look at it, then hung up the phone and didn't answer it. Let's continue, he said to Zhao Jie and the others. The call was from Zhou Ziyu. There must be nothing urgent for her to call at this time. If her bodyguard suddenly called him, it would be a real emergency. After the meeting, Li Jie and Lu Kaiyu walked out of the conference room together. Always pay attention to what's going on over there at Bank Y. He turned to Lu Kaiyu and said. Lu Kaiyu nodded and said, I understand. After returning to the office, Li Jie came to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the scenery outside for a while, then took out his mobile phone and called Zhou Ziyu back. Xiao, what do you want from me? There was a smile in his voice. Zhou Ziyu was silent for a while on the other side of the phone and said softly, Husband, I have it. What do you have? Halfway through the words, Li Jie suddenly reacted and said in surprise, Xiao, are you pregnant? When did it happen? Hearing the surprise and excitement that could not be concealed in his voice, Zhou Ziyu's heart suddenly felt at ease and full of warmth. She was really afraid that Li Jie would think her pregnancy at this time was a problem. My relatives were postponed last month and never came. This morning I suddenly felt sick again, so I bought some pregnancy test kits and found out that I was pregnant. Is it just a pregnancy test? Just wait for me, and I'll go back and accompany you to the hospital for a checkup right away. Well, hubby, I'll be waiting for you. Wait a moment. What's wrong? Husband, you are so kind. After hanging up the phone, Li Jie walked back and forth several times excitedly. The last time he heard that Wang's Haining was pregnant, it was more of an accident than a surprise. However, after the excitement and surprise, Li Jie suddenly thought of something and felt a little worried again. He seemed to have promised Zhou Ziyu and the others before that he would marry whoever gets pregnant first. Alas, you shouldn't make such promises just to appease them. Now Xiao Jiao is happily waiting for marriage, but Xiao Yu suddenly becomes pregnant. What should we do? Could it be that you tell Xiao that I just said it casually before, so don't take it seriously? Or should I tell Xiao Jiao that I can't marry her for the time being and that I have to go to someone else first? Don't worry, none of them will do it. Xiao Jiao will go crazy even more. It would not be surprising if he gets hit with a hatchet. Li Jie sighed and put away his phone. Could it be that this little fish was destined to kill Xiao Jiao? Forget it, don't think about it for now, let's go with Xiao for a prenatal checkup first. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 517. Zhou Ziyu looked at the hung-up mobile phone, her eyes full of tenderness and smile. She put her phone back into her handbag, picked up her handbag and was about to go out, but as soon as she opened the door, she found Xiao Jiao standing outside the door a little sneakily. Xiao Jiao, what are you doing? Are you looking for me? Zhou Ziyu smiled knowingly, but there was a look of surprise on his face. I didn't do anything. Xiao Jiao said hesitantly with an unnatural expression. Just now, Zhou Ziyu's phone rang when she came out of the bathroom. She vaguely said husband and the call was probably from Li Jie. Zhou Ziyu seemed not to notice Xiao Jiao's abnormality at all, and said nonchalantly, if you have anything to do, let me talk about it when I get back. When Xiao Jiao heard this, he immediately stared at her and asked, you want to go out? What are you going to do? Zhou Ziyu glanced at her, smiled, and left with Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi without answering. When she reached the door, she paused and glanced at Xiao Jiao behind her from the corner of her eye. Xiao Jiao, don't blame me, I don't want to either. Looking at Zhou Ziyu's leaving figure, Xiao Jiao looked very unhappy. When the door slammed shut, she ran upstairs and shouted to Zhou Jing in the small living room, Sister Jing, you come out with me. After saying that, she ran to the room to change clothes. After hurriedly changing clothes, Xiao Jiao took Zhou Jing out and took the elevator to the underground parking lot. As soon as the two stepped out of the elevator and arrived at the underground parking lot, they saw Zhou Ziyu, Lu Ji, and Lu Yingqi getting into a lava orange Porsche Cayenne from a distance. Xiao Jiao pulled Zhou Jing back and hid, and then whispered, let's follow them. When Zhou Jing heard this, she was obviously stunned for a moment. Why were they still stalking? Good. Zhou Jing took Xiao Jiao to a black BMW SUV, which was their bodyguard's backup car. It was not very eye-catching, and it was parked far away from Zhou Ziyu's Porsche. Zhou Jing opened the trunk, found a license plate from it, and covered it with the original license plate. Xiao Jiao looked a little surprised and said, Sister Jing, I didn't expect you to be quite professional. Zhou Jing smiled. For their bodyguards, this was a basic operation. Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi prefer Zhou Ziyu in their hearts, and Zhou Jing also prefers Xiao Jiao in her heart. Seeing that Xiao Jiao and Li Jie were about to get married, I felt happy for her from the bottom of my heart. In Zhou Jing's opinion, although Xiao Jiao has no ability, he is simple, kind, and has no scheming, so he is a very suitable candidate for his wife. Zhou Ziyu's Porsche remained motionless, and Xiao Jiao and Zhou Jing were waiting quietly in the car. After waiting for about 30 minutes, a stretched luxury Maybach drove in. It's Mr. Li's car, Zhou Jing said softly. Xiao Jiao didn't say anything. When she saw Li Jie getting out of the car and walking towards Zhou Ziu's Porsche, she pursed her lips tightly and clenched her fists tightly. As expected, Joe Fox came to see Li Jie. Where are they going? After a while, Zhou Ziu's Porsche started and drove out of the parking lot, followed closely by the Maybach. Sister Jing, let's catch up quickly, Xiao Qiao urged anxiously. Zhou Jing had already started the car, stepped on the accelerator, and the car immediately left the parking lot. The Porsche Cayenne drove at the front, the Maybach followed closely behind, and the BMW SUV fell far behind. The three cars drove towards Suwei together. Sister Jing, come closer, don't lose me. Seeing Zhou Jing just following from a distance, Xiao Qiao said uneasily. Zhou Jing said calmly, don't get too close. Minister Shen and Zhou Chao have very strong anti-detection capabilities. They will notice if you get even slightly closer. She not only fell from a distance, but also often looked for vehicles to block her. She was worried that Shen Baishan and Zhou Chao would be alert. More than 20 minutes later, three cars arrived in Suwei. When passing a fork in the road, the Porsche and Maybach in front suddenly accelerated. Zhou Jing realized that it was too late to speed up again. By the time she reached the fork in the road, the two cars had disappeared. Where's the car? Did we lose it? Xiao Qiao was a little dumbfounded. Zhou Jing let out a breath. We followed for too long, which attracted the attention of Minister Shen and Zhou Chao, and they threw us away. Then they found out that we were following them, Xiao Qiao said a little cautiously. Zhou Jing shook her head, no, just routine precautions. She paused and said, as long as they find an unknown vehicle following them for a long time, they will speed up and change lanes to take precautions. What should we do now? Xiao Qiao asked. I just have to look everywhere. Zhou Jing stopped the car on the side of the road. Sister Jing, why did you stop? Let's go find her quickly. We have to wait. Minister Shen and Zhou Chao will definitely take precautions. If we catch up in a hurry, we will really be suspected. Are they too vigilant? Xiao Qiao couldn't help complaining. Zhou Jing smiled and said, this is our job, we must always be vigilant. Xiao Qiao suddenly remembered something, by the way, Sister Jing, look at the hospitals nearby. Let me see. Zhou Jing looked at the navigation and said, there is a chest hospital and a gynecological and pediatric hospital. Let's go to this maternal and pediatric hospital, Xiao Qiao said quickly after hearing this. This obstetrics and gynecology hospital is the best private obstetrics hospital in Shanghai. This is the hospital where Wang Haining comes for every prenatal checkup. More than 10 minutes later, the BMW SUV stopped in the hospital parking lot. Xiao Qiao opened the door and got out of the car, looking around as if he was looking for something. At this time, Zhou Jing suddenly grabbed her arm and hid aside. What's wrong? As soon as Xiao Qiao asked, he saw the Porsche Cayenne and Maybach driving into the parking lot one after another. Li Jie got out of the car first, then helped Zhou Ziu open the door and helped her get out of the car. Lu Ji, Lu Yingqi, Shen Baishan, and others also got out of the car. Seeing Li Jie half hugging and half supporting Zhou Ziu into the hospital building, Zhou Jing vaguely guessed something and looked at Xiao Qiao with some worry. But she saw her eyes were red, staring closely at the retreating figures of Li Jie and Zhou Ziu, and her lips were about to be bitten. Fox is actually pregnant this week. Xiao Qiao was filled with shock and anger. She really hated Zhou Ziu. If she had a pair of scissors in her hand, she might have rushed up and stabbed him. Was Zhou Fox born to be against her? Just as she was about to get married to Li Jie, the other party came to sabotage her again. No, she will never allow it. She would never allow anyone to ruin her wedding, otherwise she would rather die with the other person. In a large office in the hospital, a female doctor in her 40s and two female doctors in their 30s were consulting Zhou Ziu. It was just a simple pregnancy test, and 3 gynecologists came. This is really an exaggeration. Especially the 40-year-old female doctor surnamed Han is a top gynecologist. Ordinary people may not be able to get her appointment for half a year. However, as long as you have money in the Shanghai stock market, you can enjoy the top treatment. Ordinary people can never imagine the happiness of rich people. Dr. Han took the test report from the young female nurse who came in, looked at it, and said to Josiah with a smile, "Miss Jo, congratulations, you are indeed pregnant." When Josiah heard this, she could not conceal the surprise in her beautiful eyes, as if it was really the first time she heard the news, instead of having gone to the hospital for a checkup before. It would be a pity not to become an actress with her acting skills. The deputy dean of Wu who accompanied Li Jie also said with a smile, "Mr. Li, congratulations." "Thank you." Li Jie was also very happy. "By the way, I hope you can keep this matter confidential, Dean Wu." "Mr. Li, don't worry, we are a private hospital and all customer information is strictly confidential," Dean Wu assured. After completing the examination and prescribing many health products, Li Jie walked out of the hospital with Josiah in his arms. "Husband, we have a child." Josiah leaned in his arms and looked up at him, her beautiful eyes full of tenderness and joy. Li Jie hummed slightly and looked at her lovingly. Although he had a headache on how to comfort Xiao Jiao and Xiao Yu, he was still full of joy for the arrival of this child. "I wonder if Xiao Jiao has followed?" Josiah's heart moved. She stood up on her tiptoes and took the initiative to kiss Li Jie's lips. A smile appeared on Li Jie's face, he hugged her tightly and started to kiss her back. Li Jie and Josiah were making love. When Xiao Jiao, who was hiding by the car not far away, saw this scene, he was so furious that his lungs were about to explode. "Adulterer and adulterer, adulterer and adulteress," she muttered in a low voice and slapped the car hard as if to vent her anger. "Ah, it hurts." After getting into the car, Josiah leaned into Li Jie's arms again and nuzzled him with her head like a baby. "Husband, do you still remember what you promised us?" she said softly. "It's coming, it's coming." Li Jie couldn't help but feel a little headache. He shouldn't promise easily. "Promise what?" Seeing him pretending to be stupid, Josiah's beautiful eyes showed a hint of resentment. "Husband, you forgot what you said, whichever of us gets pregnant first, you will marry first." Li Jie sighed and looked embarrassed. "I said so, but I regretted it." He said the last half of the sentence in his heart. Li Jie once really thought that he was cheating, so he made such a promise and wanted to delay getting married for a while longer. After all, he didn't want to get married young. But after Wang's Haining suddenly became pregnant, he realized that he was overthinking and that he had nothing to worry about. It's just a coincidence that Xiao Jiao and the other four have never been pregnant, or there is something wrong with his body that cannot be found. "Husband, in your heart, we are still no better than Xiao Jiao, right?" Josiah bit her lip. Her expression was indescribably sad, and her look of loss made people want to hold her in their arms and take good care of her. When she feels wronged, it makes people feel as if the whole world is wrong. This little drama queen. Li Jie couldn't help but sigh again. "Xiao, as I said, you are as important as Xiao Jiao in my heart." "Really?" Josiah's beautiful eyes revealed doubt. "Real?" Li Jie was telling the truth. Xiao Jiao and Xiao Yu were really equal in his heart. If he was forced to make a choice, he really didn't know who to choose. Josiah nodded. "Okay, husband, I won't force you, I can take a step back." Li Jie felt relieved after hearing this. He is still a little lover who is considerate and will not be embarrassed. At this moment, Josiah continued to say, "Husband, please marry me and Xiao Jiao together." Li Jie's expression suddenly froze. "Marrying you two at the same time? How can you marry me? It is illegal for a man to get a license from two girls at the same time. He is a good law-abiding citizen, how could he do something illegal? As for immigrating to countries where polygamy is practiced? If you want to be a non-chief, you can marry as many as you want, as long as you can afford it. Saudi Arabia can also marry 4, and the number of places is just enough. But top rich people like Li Jie should not even think about immigrating unless they plan to run away. He never wanted to be a foreigner. In the past, he could not move because of poverty, but now that he has money, he has no intention of moving. Husband, we can just have a wedding without getting a certificate. I don't mind. Zhou looked like I have your best interests at heart. You don't mind, but Xiao Jiao will never do it. Besides, just getting married without getting a certificate is a hooligan. How could a serious person like him do such a hooligan thing? With this thought in his mind, Li Jie said, Xiao, let me think about it. She had just confirmed that she was pregnant today. There was no need to hurt her friendship on such a happy day. It was better to put it off until later. Yeah, Zhou snorted lightly. After a moment of silence, she said in a pleading tone, Husband, I can do anything. If you are in trouble, I can give in, but I don't want to wrong our child. At least when he/she is born, the family should be complete, not single parent. Li Jie rubbed her hair and said in a reassuring tone, Don't worry, I will definitely not wrong our child. This little fish is showing her bottom line. In fact, Li Jie originally planned to marry Xiao Qiao first. After a year of marriage, if one of Zhou or the others got pregnant, he would temporarily divorce Xiao Qiao and then marry Zhou or the others. Then after the child was born, he divorced Zhou and the others and remarried Xiao Qiao. In this way, Xiao Qiao is his wife, and Xiao Yu, and Xin are his ex-wives. He and each of them have also held weddings and received certificates, which can be regarded as fulfilling their promises. Li Jie was just talking about why the 4 of them were married at the same time. There is a billionaire who married 7 women at the same time, but he is very likely to become the richest man. How could he do something that blatantly violates public order and good customs? He just got married and divorced a few more times, which did not violate the law or public order and good customs. However, it seems a bit immoral to rekindle an old relationship with your ex-wife. But it's just a little immoral. As a businessman, it doesn't matter if he has some moral stains. Mr. Cha, who wrote about a great hero who serves the country and the people, also had an affair for 10 years, abandoned his wife who had a cup of coffee with him during the most difficult period, and even indirectly caused his eldest son to commit suicide. Isn't this a bit immoral? Li Jie also likes the new, but at least he is not tired of the old. In order to celebrate Zhou's pregnancy, Li Jie went to have a romantic and warm dinner with her. When they returned to the apartment, it was already 8 or 9 in the evening. As soon as he returned to the room and sat down, the door was pushed open and Xiao Qiao walked in with a cold face. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 518. Li Jie glanced at her with some confusion. Qiao Bao, what's wrong with you? Why did the president suddenly become emotional again? What's wrong with me? Xiao Qiao sneered, his eyes full of dissatisfaction and ridicule. Aren't you 3 very happy as a family? Why do you care about me? A family of 3? Li Jie was stunned when he heard this. Is this Xiao Qiao talking about Wang's Haining? No, she was talking about Zhou. Zhou must have accidentally revealed some clues, and Xiao Qiao discovered it. Li Jie suddenly felt like his head was pounding. He had just calmed one down temporarily, but the other started making trouble again. Can't this little fish be a little less careful and let him catch his breath? However, Li Jie can also understand this. People are not tools. Everyone has their own ideas. It is normal to be a little cautious and a little cunning. They just need not to fight by any means. Li Jie couldn't help but sigh and said, Xiao Qiao, do you know? Sure enough, that Zhou Fox was really pregnant. Originally, Xiao Qiao still had a trace of luck, but now that he heard Li Jie admit it personally, the last trace of luck in his heart disappeared. If I can't find out, are you going to keep hiding it from me and marry that Joe Fox instead? Didn't you already say that you will marry whoever gets pregnant first? Isn't Joe Hoo pregnant now? Li Jie, are you going to regret it and not marry me? The more Xiao Jiao talked, the more excited she became, her eyes were red, and she was about to cry out of grievance. Jiao Bao, Li Jie felt very uncomfortable seeing her like this. Xiao Jiao had never been sorry to him, but he hurt her again and again. He stood up and reached out to hold Xiao Jiao in his arms. But Xiao Jiao severely interrupted the hand he extended. Don't touch me, you scumbag, big pig's hooves. I gave in and tolerated time and time again, but in exchange you got worse. Tell me how many women you have found. My whole body is green and shiny. When I look in the mirror. Dare you laugh? Xiao Jiao was feeling sad. When she saw the corner of Li Jie's mouth twitching as if he was smiling, she became even more furious. I'm not smiling. Not smiling? You definitely laughed. Okay, I'm so sad, why do you still have the nerve to laugh? Yeah, you laughed again. Li Jie, you bastard. While scolding, Xiao Jiao jumped on Li Jie and beat him. This really can't be blamed on Li Jie, he was feeling quite uncomfortable in the first place. But this Xiao Jiao's talent for comedy was so great that the sad words she said became funny when she said them. He really couldn't hold it back. Li Jie reached out and hugged Xiao Jiao, who was patting him randomly, tightly in his arms. Li Jie, let me go, Xiao Jiao struggled hard. But Li Jie held her tightly and couldn't move no matter how hard she struggled. After struggling for a while, she became tired and finally stopped. Li Jie, let me tell you, I will never quit this time. If you break your promise again, we will break up. Don't think you can bribe me with money. Do you really think it's your money that I like? I'm not that Joe Fox. I don't want the house, the car, and everything else you bought me. I'll give it all back to you. After Xiao Jiao shouted loudly, tears burst out uncontrollably. It is true that Zhou Ziyu puts too much pressure on her. She is always worried that Li Jie will abandon her and choose Zhou Ziyu. It was not until recently that Li Jie took the initiative to marry her early that she felt at ease. But Zhou Ziyu suddenly became pregnant again. What people fear most is not that there is no hope, but that hope is right in front of them, but they are lost before their eyes. Lu Kaiyu was processing the company's emails on the computer in her room when she suddenly heard faint cries coming from next door. What's going on with them? She got up and left the bedroom and went to the living room, where she saw Shen Xian lying outside Li Jie's door, eavesdropping. Lu Kaiyu walked up behind her and patted her gently. Ah, Shen Xian was startled. When he turned around, he realized that it was Lu Kaiyu who was relieved. Kaiyu, you scared me. What are you listening to? Lu Kaiyu asked. They seem to be quarreling. Why? Have no idea. Shen Xian paused and then whispered, but it should be because of Tsuyu. The apartment was very well soundproofed, so she couldn't hear much movement inside even if she leaned against the door. Only when Xiao Jiao's voice was particularly loud, she could faintly hear a few words. Lu Kaiyu said nothing. Shen Xian could guess this without telling her. When did Xiao Jiao have a fight with Li Jie and it wasn't because of Zhou Ziyu? Seeing Shen Xinyi put his ear to the door again, Lu Kaiyu suddenly thought of something and looked at her with a strange look. Xinyi, do you often do this? What? Shen Xian was stunned for a moment before reacting, and immediately turned a little red. No, not often. I'm just, a little worried about them, so I listened outside. Okay, I don't care if you do it often or occasionally, don't come to my room. Oh. Kaiyu, why are you still talking nonsense? Among the four of them, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi, Shen Xinyi is the most popular and has a decent relationship with Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Shen Xinyi. Of course, this has a lot to do with the fact that she is the least threatening. Downstairs, Zhou Ziyu was lying on the big bed in the bedroom with complicated thoughts. She knew that if nothing unexpected happened, Xiao Jiao should go find Li Jie to make trouble. Xiao Jiao, I'm sorry. Zhou Ziyu said silently in his heart. What a vixen's tears. Zhou Ziyu let out a breath, sat up, got out of the bed, walked out of the bedroom, and came to the living room. There are many children's products, toys, books, etc. placed in the corner of the living room. A large castle built with building blocks and a beautiful little wooden horse are particularly eye-catching. These things were all bought by Wang's Haining. They couldn't fit them in the room, so she put them outside. Zhou Ziyu used to find these children's products very disturbing, but now she thinks these things are quite cute. She walked to the little wooden horse, knelt down and reached out to touch it. This wooden horse is so beautiful. Xiao Zhou had completely forgotten that she thought this rotten wooden horse was a nuisance 2 days ago. Cough, suddenly someone coughed lightly from behind. Zhou Ziyu turned around and found that Wang's Haining had come out of the room at some point. Wang's Haining has been pregnant for more than 9 months, but she is not very pregnant, just like ordinary people who are 5 or 6 months pregnant. Since she was already in labor, she rarely went out. She just walked around the living room and exercised. Seeing Wang's Haining staring at her, Zhou Ziyu took his hand away from the wooden horse and stood up. Isn't it just a toy? She will buy more and better toys for her children. Well, she will buy it tomorrow. By the way, there's also prenatal education. Her child is going to inherit Li Jie's career. It's too late to train him since he was a child. He needs to be raised from the fetal stage. He is better than his sister and future brothers and sisters. Although she hasn't had a prenatal checkup yet, Zhou Ziyu already believes from the bottom of her heart that she is pregnant with a boy. What good is an illegitimate eldest daughter? She was pregnant with her real eldest son. Qiao Bao, don't worry. I said I would be the first to marry you, and I will definitely do it. Li Jie gently stroked Xiao Qiao's back to soothe her emotions. That won't change just because Tsuyu is pregnant. At this point, he paused, but what? As soon as he heard Li Jie's words, Xiao Qiao's heart ached again, and she stared at him with tearful eyes. I'm afraid we won't be able to celebrate our first wedding anniversary. Why? Li Jie sighed again. Today he just sighed. We are going to divorce early. If Ziyu and I don't get the divorce certificate first, our children won't be able to register. No, Xiao Qiao became anxious again upon hearing this. Li Jie, you have gone too far. You are going to divorce me after a few months of marriage. You won't even let me celebrate our wedding anniversary. Is this marriage a joke? Isn't Tsuyu pregnant? I didn't expect it. Li Jie's explanation was weak. He also really felt that he was very sorry for Xiao Qiao by doing this. What does her pregnancy have to do with me? Pregnant, Shen Xinyi, who was leaning on the door and eavesdropping, suddenly exclaimed. Pregnant, Lu Kai was stunned and asked quickly, who is pregnant? Tsuyu seems to be pregnant. Chen Xin turned around and said in a complicated tone. She also knew that whoever got pregnant first and who got married first was just an excuse for Li Jie to appease them. But with luck in mind, she worked hard, but in the end she was bullied in vain. When Wang's Haining was pregnant, she felt very disappointed. Now that she heard that Zhou Ziyu was also pregnant, she felt even more disappointed. She's pregnant. Lu Kai's mood was also very complicated. She didn't want to get pregnant too early. Once you become pregnant, you have to put aside your work at the company temporarily. But it doesn't mean that she doesn't feel envious and jealous when she sees Wang's Haining and Zhou Ziyu getting pregnant one after another. Also, don't use the child as an excuse. If she doesn't marry you, won't the child be able to register? What about Wang's Haining? Why doesn't she need it? That Joe who wanted to have her child in your name, but why did she ask me to make sacrifices? I haven't settled the accounts with her yet for her third-party interference. Li Jie was speechless with Xiao Jiao. Xiao Jiao wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and said decisively, Li Jie, let me tell you, if you want to marry me, you have to marry me for at least 1 year. We can't divorce until our wedding anniversary. Go marry someone else, that's what you promised me before. Otherwise, don't marry me, and go marry that Joe Fox. It just so happens that your family of 3 is happy, so the 2 of us break up. After saying that, she suddenly broke away from Li Jie's arms, turned around and left without looking back. Looking at Xiao Jiao's leaving figure, Li Jie subconsciously wanted to stop her, but after opening his mouth, no sound came out. When the door slammed shut, he sighed deeply and sat down on the edge of the bed. In the past 2 or 3 years, Li Jie has been hugging each other, enjoying the gentleness of the country, and gradually becoming more and more relaxed. But if you are too floating, you will inevitably fall down. Today he encountered a problem. He could no longer play both sides and kept jumping sideways. Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu both stated their bottom lines, but their bottom lines are irreconcilable. Whichever one he agrees to, he will offend the other. But can we blame Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu? Cannot. Both of their requests were reasonable and by no means excessive. He only has himself to blame. The dilemma he found himself in today was all his own fault. What to do? Li Jie had never felt such a headache. After sitting like this for a while, he took out his cell phone and dialed. Guo Jian has joined Kudong Group for half a year. In the first few months, he was doing offline promotion of Kudong, traveling around with 2 team members. Although doing this kind of offline promotion is tiring, the income is not low. You can earn at least 5 or 6,000 a month, and the most can be tens of thousands a month. Guo Jian is relatively good at doing this kind of promotion work. After working in offline promotion for several months, he was transferred to the marketing department of Qwen Technology last month to start game marketing and promotion. However, although Guo Jian made a lot of money, he didn't save much money at all. This kid spent money lavishly, spending whatever he earned, buying good clothes and mobile phones, and even moved out of the company dormitory and rented a 1-bedroom furnished apartment. After being transferred to the marketing department of Qwen Technology, he fell in love with a more beautiful female intern. After chasing each other for more than half a month, there was no progress in the relationship, and the money was spent 4,000 to 5,000. During the May Day holiday, he spent more than 3,000 yuan on a date with the girl for 2 or 3 days. After watching a movie, Guo Jian and Wenting walked out of the cinema together. Wenting is the female intern Guo Jian is chasing. She is petite, looks pure, has a sweet smile, and has a gentle and quiet personality. Xiaoting, how about we go shopping on the Bund again, Guo Jian said to Wenting. Wenting took out her phone and checked the time, with an apologetic look on her face. Brother Guo, it's almost 10 o'clock, in the evening. I have to go to school. The dormitory aunt will lock the door soon. She is a student in a junior college and is about to graduate this year. Guo Jian felt a little unhappy after hearing this. Okay, then I'll take you back. He had expressed his affection for Wenting, but the other party kept delaying it, saying that he needed to think more about it. After playing for 3 days and shopping, he spent more than 3,000, but he just held Wenting's hand in the cinema, and she quickly got rid of her. It's not that Guo Jian can't tell that Wenting is hanging on to him, but who makes him care about others? Just when Guo Jian was about to reach out to stop the car, his cell phone suddenly rang. Guo Jian took out his cell phone, took a look at it, and quickly connected. Jizi, why do you, a busy man like you, suddenly think of calling me? Drink together? Okay. You invite me, I have to go. After hanging up the phone, Guo Jian glanced at Wen Ting and said, "Xiao Ting, I can't see you off. Mr. Li invited me for a drink. I'll hurry over." After hearing Guo Jian say that he couldn't send her away, Wen Ting subconsciously wanted to say, "It doesn't matter, I can just go back by myself," but she couldn't help but froze when she heard what he said next. "Mr. Li." "Yes, Mr. Li." Guo Jian said a little showily, "Didn't I tell you that Mr. Li and I are close friends? We talked about everything in high school." Wen Ting heard Guo Jian say that he and Mr. Li were close buddies, but she didn't believe it at all and thought the other party was bragging. She estimated that both parties were ordinary high school classmates. If he really had such a good relationship with Mr. Li would have to give him a job as a supervisor. Why would he still be an ordinary employee? "Brother Guo, let me go with you," Wen Ting thought Guo Jian was bragging. "Are you coming with me?" Guo Jian gave her a meaningful look. "Didn't you say that if you go back late, the dormitory door will be locked?" Wen Ting was stunned by his question. Guo Jian smiled and said, "Okay, let's go together." Wen Ting looked at Guo Jian, who was waving for a taxi, and felt suspicious in her heart. Could it be that he really has a good relationship with Mr. Li? I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 519. Li Zhe put down his phone, got up and went to the cloakroom to change into more casual clothes, and then left the room. In the living room, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi were surrounding Xiao Qiao to comfort her. When they saw Li Zhe coming out, they all looked at him. What does their look mean? Why is it like looking at a scumbag? Li Zhe felt uncomfortable being looked at by them. He was a good man, not a scumbag. Scumbag is the biggest misunderstanding about him. "Husband, are you going out?" Shen Xian asked. Li Zhe nodded, "I'll go for a walk," he said and looked at Xiao Qiao, but Xiao Qiao ignored him and turned his head away. Shen Xinyi and Lu Kaiyu looked at each other, then looked at Li Zhe hesitantly. "If you two want to say anything, just say it." Li Zhe noticed their little movements. Shen Xian hesitated and said softly, "Husband, we all support Xiao Qiao." Both she and Lu Kaiyu knew that they had the least chance of winning, but if they had to choose between Xiao Qiao and Zhou Ziyu, they would rather give it to Xiao Qiao. After all, Xiao Qiao was the first to be with Li Zhe. Strictly speaking, they were just the third, fourth, and fifth parties involved. If the third party, Zhou Ziyu, can come from behind, then why can't they too? In fact, the fact that Shen Xinyi and Lu Kaiyu expressed their support for Xiao Qiao so clearly has a lot to do with Zhou Ziyu's poor popularity. In order to please Li Zhe, she had offended Xiao Qiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi. She is not popular and has deep scheming intentions. Who will support her to ascend to the throne? In contrast, Xiao Qiao, a real girlfriend with no scheming intentions, is very popular. People sympathize with the weak. Besides, if Zhou Ziyu succeeds in taking office, the child she carries will become Li Zhe's eldest son or daughter, which will also seriously damage the interests of Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xian. Guo Jian took Wen Ting to a taxi near the Bund and found a northeastern restaurant. The store is very small, with only 5 or 6 tables, but it is kept very neat and clean. "Brother Guo, are you and Mr. Li eating here?" Wen Ting looked surprised. She felt that this small restaurant was a bit shabby. Would a billionaire like Mr. Li come to eat in a place like this? Guo Jian smiled nonchalantly, "Didn't I tell you that Li and I are always good buddies? We don't have much to say between us. When we were in high school, we could drink the whole night with just one dish. This restaurant may not have a small appearance, but its taste is very authentic. Big hotels don't even have this authenticity." After saying that, he walked into the restaurant first. Wen Ting looked at Guo Jian's back and curled her lips. Where is the high school? This is no longer the time in high school. Li Zhe is already a top billionaire. She felt that Guo Jian was a little confused about her. There were no customers in the restaurant, and most of the tables were empty. Guo Jian found an empty table near the back, pulled out a chair and invited Wenting to sit down. Wenting did not sit down immediately, but took out a few pieces of paper from the paper drawer and placed them on the chair before sitting down. The young female proprietress of the restaurant came over and asked the two of them what they wanted to eat. Guo Jian said that he would wait for his friends and order food later, and only ordered a bottle of drink for Wenting. The landlady recognized that Guo Jian had a northeastern accent, so she chatted with him for a few more words. After chatting, I found out that they were fellow villagers. One is from a mountain city and the other is from Jiaxi, only an hour's drive away. After waiting for 20 or 30 minutes, Guo Jian and the female boss lady were chatting animatedly, but Wenting became impatient with the wait. She also doubted whether Guo Jian was deceiving her. Would a big boss like Li Jie really come to such a small restaurant to eat? At this moment, the sound of a car engine sounded outside the door, and a stretched luxury Maybach parked in front of the store. The door was pushed open, and 2 or 3 capable bodyguards in black suits got out of the car. A male bodyguard about 40 years old came to the back of the car and opened the door. A young man dressed casually and with a good temperament stepped out of the car. One look at this splendid scene showed that this young man was either rich or noble, and everyone in the restaurant couldn't help but be attracted to him. "Jizi, you're here." Seeing Li Jie arrive, Guo Jian immediately stood up and greeted him with a smile. Wenting was stunned for a moment, then quickly stood up and followed him. Although she is just an intern, she knows the big boss Li Jie. Li Jie actually came. Guo Jian is really not bragging, his relationship with Li Jie is really very good. Li Jie nodded to Guo Jian, then glanced at Wenting behind him, and said with a smile, "Why, you even brought your family here." Guo Jian also glanced at Wenting. "No, we are just friends." He brought Wenting here just to show off to the other party. When Li Jie heard what Guo Jian said, he immediately understood that this kid was a dog licker again. "Why do you say again?" "Because he did it in high school." However, Li Jie was embarrassed to talk to others, and it was not like he had never licked Tan Hui. Wenting said a little excitedly, "Hello, Mr. Li, I am Wenting from the marketing department of Qwen Technology. I am currently an intern in the company." "Hello," Li Jie smiled and nodded to her. Then he said to Guo Jian, "Why is it too late? Don't let a girl stay outside. Zhou Chao, take Miss Wen back." It was a rare meeting with Li Jie. Of course Wenting didn't want to leave just like that, but Li Jie said so. "Okay, Mr. Li and brother Guo, I'll go back first." After walking out of the restaurant, Wenting turned back and took a look inside. Originally, she didn't like Guo Jian at all. His appearance was really hard to describe. Not to mention that Guo Jian didn't have much money yet. Even if she had money, she would have to think more about it. However, now you can consider dating the other person for a while. It's just his looks, forget it, just be patient. At least we have to wait until she becomes a regular employee. "Miss Wen, please get in the car," Zhou Chao called her. Wenting came back to her senses, smiled at Zhou Chao, and her eyes fell on the extended version of the Maybach not far away. She has never ridden in such a luxury car costing tens of millions. After Wenting left, Li Jie and Guo Jian sat down. Shen Baishan and another bodyguard also sat down at a table at the door. While the young female proprietress warmly greeted Li Jie and others to order, she looked at Li Jie up and down, guessing his identity. Cuabeo pork, pork stewed vermicelli, braised potatoes and eggplants, northeastern salad. Li Jie and Guo Jian ordered several special dishes and a few bottles of beer. After the food was served, the two of them had a drink first. After putting down the wine glasses, Guo Jian glanced at Li Jie and said, "Jizi, why did you suddenly think of drinking with me tonight?" He had been in Shanghai for almost half a year, and it was during his visit to Shanghai that he met Li Jie. Later, he asked Li Jie for a drink, but he always said he didn't have time. Although Guo Jian also understood that the identities of the two parties were different, and Li Jie was now a billionaire, he was still somewhat dissatisfied. Li Jie smiled and said, "We haven't had a drink together for a long time, so I asked you to come out for a drink." "No, you wouldn't ask me to go out for a drink if you have nothing to do. Are you worried about something?" Guo Jian originally wanted to say "you boy," but considering Li Jie's identity, he changed his words. "No, I just want to have a drink with you." "No?" "Absolutely." Guo Jian said and helped Li Jie fill up the glass of wine again. "Jizi, you are so rich and surrounded by beautiful women, what else can you worry about?" He had also heard about Li Jie's love affair. Guo Jian was envious when he met Shen Xian before. After meeting Zhou Ziyu by chance in the company, he was even more stunned. Li Jie didn't say anything after hearing this. He picked up the wine glass and drank the wine. "Do you have no worries if you have money? How can it be? The more desires people have, the more troubles they have. Li Jie is now worth tens of billions and surrounded by beautiful women. But his worries were not less than when he had no money, but more. Not having money is a problem, having money is a problem, not having a girlfriend is a problem, having too many girlfriends and lovers is a problem. Hey, who understands his hard work? Li Jie is an old Versailles guy?" Guo Jian suddenly remembered something and asked, "Jizi, did you really have a relationship with Lu Yufei?" Li Jie glanced at him and said, "Why do you ask this? I'm just curious, so just tell me." "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," Guo Jian promised. "You will never tell anyone?" Li Jie didn't believe Guo Jian's guarantee at all. "No, she and I just have a normal relationship between a boss and an artist." "No," Guo Jian looked Li Jie up and down with a suspicious look on his face. "There must be, I don't know you yet, I can tell you are lying just by looking at your expression." He subconsciously wanted to say, "You boy," but he restrained himself when the words came to his lips. Li Jie smiled carelessly. Guo Jian suddenly sighed, "Jizi, I really envy you. You have a successful career and are surrounded by beautiful women. Unlike me, it's so hard to chase a girl even if I don't have money." Li Jie looked at him again and chuckled. "Why are you laughing?" "Nothing. Don't attribute everything to money. Guo Jian is a very talkative guy. Logically speaking, it is not difficult to find a girlfriend, but he has too high standards. He always wants to find someone pure and beautiful, but his appearance is difficult to describe. Beautiful girls all want to find handsome and rich men, but no one wants to help the poor. Falling in love is not about getting married. As long as you are handsome and well-spoken, you can still find a beautiful girlfriend even if you don't have much money. If you don't have money, you don't look good, and you can't speak, it's hopeless. We can only rely on which girls are willing to help the poor. That girl named Wenting just now, you can just talk for a while and just have fun, don't take it too seriously," Li Jie said instead. He is now considered a master of tea appraisal, and he can smell the scent of tea on Wenting as soon as he sees her. Guo Jian smiled helplessly, "I just wanted to have fun, but that girl was just playing tricks on me. I chased her for half a month and spent 4,000 to 5,000 on her, but she didn't even give me a hand. Let's pull it. At first I thought she was quite innocent, but I didn't expect that I was too innocent." He became more and more angry as he talked, picked up the wine, poured a glass, and took a swig from his mouth. "It was you who called me suddenly that made me take a breath. You spent 4,000 or 5,000 on someone without even reaching your hand." Li Jie was a little speechless. This is really a bit of a licking. Guo Jian was a bit of a licker when he was in high school, but he didn't expect that after 3 or 4 years, he didn't make any progress at all. I remember when I was in the first year of high school, there was a girl in the class who was good at studying and looked relatively innocent and cute. Suddenly she said that her family was in trouble and asked for a loan. The classmates borrowed it almost all the time, totaling 4 to 5,000 yuan. 4 to 5,000 yuan in 2004 was a lot of money for an ordinary high school student. Then the girl dropped out of school and lost contact. Guo Jian probably had some thoughts about the girl, so he borrowed the most, 6 to 700 yuan. If you have this kind of money, you might as well find a beautiful female technician. Their service is not bad. With Guo Jian's conditions, if he wanted to get in touch with beautiful girls as soon as possible, the only way was to find a high-end technician. Prices are relatively cheap now. 4 to 5,000 yuan is enough to find a high-end female technician who is more beautiful than Wen Ting. Female technician, Guo Jian was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Li Jie to say such a thing. In high school, Li Jie was a very serious boy who had never even watched a short movie. However, thinking about how he is now hugging me, I feel relieved. Jizi, why have you experienced it before? Li Jie chuckled in a funny way, do you think I need it? When he first won the lottery, he really wanted to experience the services of a high-end technician, but he held it back for Xiao Qiao's sake. Guo Jian, if you want, I can help you arrange it. She is definitely much more beautiful than that Wen Ting. Guo Jian was obviously moved after hearing this, but he still shook his head. Technician, let's forget it. He likes innocence and is a bit resistant to technicians. Okay, if you don't want to, forget it. When you have money, people will sell you everything, villas, luxury cars, yachts, etc., which naturally includes beautiful women. There are some people who specialize in providing resources to the rich and wealthy. As a top rich man, the resources promoted to Li Jie are also top-notch. Even someone with Zhou Ziyu's good looks can't be found. Why are rich people unwilling to marry beautiful wives? If they can't find any beautiful women in private, why do they want to marry her and share their property with her? There is a billionaire named Zhao in Hong Kong who has had tens of thousands of girlfriends, but he has never married any woman, even those who have given birth to children for him. He is just afraid that someone will share his property with him. As long as Li Jie helps Guo Jian make arrangements casually, it will be the pinnacle of his life. This kid Guo Jian has no idea what he missed. The art school beauty, beautiful model, and beautiful stewardess that he didn't dare to hope for were just a phone call away from Li Jie. A girl of Wen Ting's level is not qualified to be placed in front of Li Jie. By the way, Jizi, what's bothering you? Guo Jian asked. Didn't I tell you that there's nothing wrong? I just wanted to drink with you. Li Jie picked up the wine, filled the cup, and drank it all. He came to Guo Jian not to say anything to him, but to find someone to drink with and relax. Li Jie and Guo Jian were chatting and drinking glass after glass of wine. After 5 or 6 bottles of beer, both of them were a little drunk. Even though they are from the northeast, they are not the type to drink. Li Jie looked at the time on the wall and found that it was past 12 o'clock in the morning, so he said to Guo Jian, okay, let's stop here today. It's very late, and the boss is still waiting to close. There were no other customers in the small restaurant, only Li Jie and the others were left. At around 11 o'clock, the female boss wanted to come over and remind her to close, but she was worried about Li Jie's identity and didn't dare to interrupt. Li Jie and Guo Jian were so drunk that they were a little dazed. With the help of their bodyguards, they walked out of the restaurant and got into the car. After returning Guo Jian to his rented bachelor apartment, Zhou Chao, who was in charge of driving, glanced at Li Jie through the rearview mirror, who was obviously drunk and was leaning on the seat with his eyes closed to rest. Mr. Li, shall we go back to the apartment? Li Jie didn't answer, he was already asleep. Send Mr. Li back, Shen Basehan said in a deep voice. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 520. It was already past midnight, and Xiao Jiao was lying on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. She regretted saying such harsh words to Li Jie. What if Li Jie really gives up on her and chooses Joe Fox? That guy Li Jie is so confused by the vixen that he might really like the new and dislike the old. So what should she do? Do you really choose to break up with him? Break up, must break up? She would never let that vixen ride over her head. But her heart ached when she thought of breaking up. Xiao Jiao was torn to death. She was reluctant to break up with Li Jie and was greedy for his kindness, but she was also fed up with his philandering. Sometimes she even wished that Li Jie could be more scumbag, so that she could make up her mind to break up with him. By the way, how should I explain it to my family? She had already told her parents about her marriage, and it was probably spread throughout the town by now. If you suddenly say you don't want to get married, how will it end? It's so annoying. Dong dong dong, suddenly someone knocked on the door. Could it be that Li Jie came to her to apologize? Xiao Jiao sat up from the bed in surprise. No, she had to restrain herself and not give Li Jie a good look. She wanted him to know that she was not so easy to coax. Thinking this, Xiao Jiao became serious again. Who? Xiao Jiao, it's me, bodyguard Zhou Jing's voice came from outside the door. When he heard that it was not Li Jie, Xiao Jiao's surprise suddenly turned into disappointment. Sister Jing, what can you do? Minister Shen called and said that Mr. Li was drunk, Zhou Jing said. Drunk? Is that guy Li Jie going to drink? What does that guy's drunk business have to do with me? As Xiao Jiao spoke, she suddenly thought that if she left Li Jie alone, Shen Baishan and the others would definitely notify Zhou Ziyu again. Wasn't this Joe Fox taking advantage of him again? She'd better be kind and take care of him. Sister Jing, wait a moment. Xiao Jiao took a thick nightgown and put it on her body, tied the belt around her waist, then opened the door and left the room. She only wore an off-shoulder lace suspender nightgown, which was a bit too revealing. Well, this is really not about waiting for Li Jie to come over. Where are they? She asked Zhou Jing. We're almost at the community, Zhou Jing said. The two sat on the sofa and waited for a few minutes before they heard the doorbell ringing outside the door. Xiao Jiao quickly stood up and opened the door, and saw Shen Baishan standing outside the door. Behind him, Zhou Chao and another bodyguard supported the unconscious Li Jie. Is he drunk? Xiao Jiao asked, looking at Li Jie. Shen Baishan nodded respectfully. Ms. Jiao, Mr. Li is in a bad mood. He drank 2 more drinks with his classmates. In his heart, he recognized Xiao Jiao more, otherwise he wouldn't be the first to call Zhou Jing bad mood. Seeing Li Jie drunk like this, Xiao Jiao felt distressed and angry. Is it so difficult for him to choose between her and that Joe Fox? Okay, just leave him to me. Xiao Jiao and Zhou Jing took Li Jie over together. It's so late. You've all worked hard, Minister Shen. Go back and rest quickly. After Shen Baishan and the others left, Xiao Jiao supported Li Jie and closed the door. Why is this guy so heavy? Li Jie now weighs more than 140 pounds and is very heavy when drunk. Without Zhou Jing to help her, Xiao Jiao's small body would not be able to support him. Where should we send Mr. Li? Zhou Jing looked at Xiao Jiao with questioning eyes. Sent to me, of course, to his own room. Xiao Jiao subconsciously wanted to send Li Jie to his room, but when he thought that he would wake up tomorrow morning and find that she was serving him, he would be proud again, so he changed his mind. The two of them helped Li Jie to the master bedroom and then put him on the big bed. Huh! Xiao Jiao let out a long breath. She turned to Zhou Jing and said, Sister Jing, You should also go back and rest. Zhou Jing nodded and left. Xiao Jiao sat down by the bed, looked at the sleeping Li Jie, and bit his lip. She felt like she owed it to this guy in her previous life. He made her angry. If he didn't coax her, she would still serve him. What a bully. Thinking this, Xiao Jiao angrily hit Li Jie. Then, she helped Li Jie take off his shoes and outer clothes, and took a thin blanket to cover him. It's so heavy, I'm exhausted. Why don't you go get some hot water and help him wipe his face? Xiao Jiao hesitated. At this time, Li Jie, who was sleeping, suddenly muttered something softly. Exchange phone numbers. Xiao Jiao was stunned for a moment, and then she was furious when she realized that she was here to take care of this guy regardless of her past grudges, but he was so good that he still hooked up with girls when he was drunk and asked for their phone numbers in his dreams. This scumbag, a big pig's hoof. She slapped Li Jie on the chest. What are you thinking about? Hearing a familiar female voice, Li Jie came back to his senses, turned around and saw a pure and beautiful girl looking at him with a smile. He was stunned immediately. Xiao Jiao. No, she is not Xiao Jiao. That's not right, she is also Xiao Jiao. This Xiao Jiao is the little Jiao he met before he was reborn. True President Zhou. His Xiao Jiao is not as good as her. Li Jie was indescribably shocked. He quickly looked around and found that he was indeed in the small restaurant on the second floor of the normal college cafeteria. In other words, this was the first semester of his sophomore year, when he helped Xiao Jiao get back the small electric pot that had been taken away, and she invited him to dinner to express her gratitude. Is he dreaming, or has he been reborn? Li Jie remembered that he had been reborn before, and it seemed that he was drunk because he drank with Guo Jian. Could it be that he was doing it again? If he had known this would happen, he would never go to Guo Jian for a drink. He doesn't want to be reborn at all. After 3 or 4 years of hard work and a little bit of luck, he became a billionaire and had several confidants. If you are reborn, you will have to start over again, and your work will be in vain. More importantly, he didn't want to lose Xiao Jiao and the others. This must be a dream. Thinking this, Li Jie pinched his arm hard. Hiss if you feel pain, is it true that you are reborn? Seeing Li Jie's sudden look of surprise and shock, and pinching himself, Xiao Jiao was confused by him. Li Jie, what's wrong with you? Li Jie took a breath and tried to calm down. After 3 or 4 years of experience, he is no longer that ordinary person. If he hadn't been too shocked, he wouldn't have lost his composure. Nothing. He smiled at Xiao Jiao. Looking at his smile, Xiao Jiao couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. This smile was generous and confident, completely different from the Li Jie he knew before. At first she just wanted to ask Li Jie to get the electric cooker back, but seeing that he was so straight and unmoved no matter how coquettishly she acted, she became somewhat interested and kept pestering him to see if he would compromise. After pestering him for a day, he still succeeded in taking down the opponent. Li Jie, do you treat every girl like this? What do you mean? So dull and ignorant of style, Li Jie looked at her and smiled again. Xiao Jiao's heart skipped a beat when he smiled. It was this smile. This boy looked ordinary before, but now his smile is very charming. You couldn't have been faking it before, right? What are you pretending to be? Pretend to be honest. Just think I'm pretending to be honest. I heard that you came to this school because of a girl. Well, that's right. Pity. What's a pity? It's a pity that you two can't be together. If anyone wants to apply for the same school all the way for me, I will definitely be very touched. Then do you regret it? No regrets. You really don't regret it at all. If I didn't come to this school, I wouldn't be able to meet you. Yeah, you were really pretending to be honest before. During this meal in the previous life, Xiao Jiao had been teasing Li Jie, and he could only deal with it passively, not knowing what to say. But this time it was the other way around. Li Jie teased her to laughter and made her flowers tremble. No, the president's mediocre figure can't even tremble. Li Jie, where are you looking? Li Jie's gaze was so unrestrained that it was difficult for Xiao Jiao not to notice. I didn't see anything. Li Jie calmly withdrew his gaze. She was so flat, he didn't have to look at anything even if he wanted to. However, Li Jie said this in his heart. If he dared to say it to his face, this Xiao Jiao would also be angry with him. Ah, are you still pretending to be stupid? Xiao Jiao said funny. I didn't expect that you are not only pretending to be honest, but also quite astringent. There was a sly and teasing smile in her eyes. Li Jie shook his head and said, how can you say that? I respect you. Respect? You are so beautiful. If I didn't look at you more, wouldn't it be disrespectful to you? Xiao Jiao was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect Li Jie to say such shameless words in a serious manner. It completely subverted her previous impression of him. After finishing their meal, the two of them went downstairs and left the restaurant. Xiao Jiao turned around and looked at Li Jie with a smile. Li Jie, you are really interesting. She was becoming more and more interested in him. Li Jie smiled and said, how about we take a walk together again? Okay. The two walked along the campus path towards the artificial lake, continuing to chat as they walked. The more he chatted with Li Jie, the more Xiao Jiao was attracted to him. She found that Li Jie seemed to know her very well. When they reached the artificial lake, Li Jie, who was joking with Xiao Jiao, suddenly stopped talking and looked forward. What's wrong? Xiao Jiao also followed his gaze and saw a delicate and graceful girl walking over from a distance with a tall boy on her arm. Is this the girl? Yeah. Li Jie withdrew his gaze. Why did you meet Tan Hui again? Is this a dream, or is he really reborn? Let's go over and say hello, Xiao Jiao said, holding his arm and walking towards Tan Hui. Forget it. Li Jie held her back. He is no longer as aggressive as he was when he was reborn 3 or 4 years ago. Looking back at his original behavior, he feels that it was still too immature. Of course, Li Jie can be so open-minded now mainly because he has capital. Most of the time, don't advise others to be kind without others suffering. Seeing that Li Jie is so promising, Xiao Jiao hates that iron cannot become steel. You weren't very eloquent in front of me just now. Why don't you have the courage to see me now? After saying that, she dragged him over. Seeing Li Jie walking over with a beautiful girl on his arm, Tan Hui couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then nodded to him as a greeting. Li Jie also smiled calmly at her. Xiao Jiao suddenly said, husband, this is your high school classmate, right? Her words about husband stunned Li Jie, Tan Hui, and the boy. Tan Hui's eyes were full of surprise, looking at Li Jie and Xiao Jiao as if they were in disbelief. Okay, let's go. Li Jie shook his head in his heart, pulled Xiao Jiao and left. Xiao Jiao looked back at Tan Hui and the other two people as they left, and said with a smile as if taking credit, how about it, am I generous enough? Well, you are indeed quite generous, Li Jie said funnily. Xiao Jiao seems to have done something similar. He suddenly remembered something, stared at Xiao Jiao and said, do you call everyone husband? Under his serious gaze, Xiao Jiao, she couldn't help but feel guilty. No, I have never called, before. I made a big sacrifice to help you, and you still blame. At this point, she reacted. Hey! Li Jie, what do you mean? I'm helping you. Even if you don't thank me, why are you teaching me a lesson? After hearing what she said, Li Jie also realized that the Xiao Jiao was not his girlfriend, and he was in no position to lecture others. By the way, you always provoke other people's boyfriends, isn't it also for the sake of doing justice? He changed the subject. Yes. I'm helping them see the scumbag. Xiao Jiao looked like he hated the scumbag very much. Li Jie subconsciously felt a little guilty. No, he is not a scumbag. Why is he so guilty? Girls won't thank you. This Xiao Qiao didn't even think about it, which boy could resist her teasing? Even if you are not a scumbag, there is a high probability that you will become a scumbag. Most men will not refuse any girl who comes to them. There are not many people as principled as him. I don't need their thanks either. Xiao Qiao said nonchalantly. Do you know what your approach is called? Li Jie looked at her with a smile. What is it called? A dog is nosy when it comes to mice. Okay, you called me a dog, right? The two walked around for a while, and then Li Jie sent Xiao Qiao downstairs to the girls' dormitory. Then I'll go up. Xiao Qiao said with a trace of reluctance in his tone. Okay, Li Jie smiled and nodded. Xiao Qiao looked at him again, turned around and was about to go upstairs. Wait a minute, Li Jie suddenly stopped her. How about we exchange phone numbers? Xiao Qiao listened with a bright smile on his face. Okay. Li Jie knew that the Xiao Qiao in front of him and his Xiao Qiao were not actually the same person. They are two very similar individuals in different places. Like two seemingly identical apples on an apple tree. Li Jie has never wanted to think deeply about this issue. If he wanted to think deeply, ahem, he couldn't help coughing twice. Strange, my chest suddenly hurts. Jizzy, someone shouted from behind. Li Jie turned around and saw that His Higang was walking over. Gangzi. His Higang was stunned. Li Jie had always called him Brother Gang before. The one who was with you just now was Xiao Qiao, a tourism management major. Yes, what's wrong? I see you two are talking and laughing. You won't like her, right? This girl is not suitable for you. Even though she is pretty, I heard. I am a big man, can I still suffer from being with her? Li Jie smiled after saying that, turned around and left first. This dream is too real, try to think about it before you wake up. When Li Jie felt pain in his chest just now, he suddenly felt like he was about to leave this world, as if he was stuck while playing a game. He was immediately sure that he was dreaming. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 521. What, you said there is no one named Zhou in dormitory 408? Although it was only in a dream, he couldn't just see Xiao Qiao, he also had to meet Zhou and the others. Li Jie did not go to see Zhou first, but went to Shenzhenyi first. According to the order of acquaintance, he met Xiao Qiao first, then Shenzhenyi, and then Zhou. However, Li Jie made a mistake. The second person he met should be Lu Kaiyu. Arriving downstairs in Shenzhenyi's dormitory, Li Jie stopped a girl and asked her to help call Shen Xian down. After waiting for a while, the girl got off the bus again and told him that Shenzhenyi had gone out and was not in the dormitory. Unable to see Shenzhenyi, Li Jie went to see Zhou again, but this time he was told that there was no such person as Zhou. How is this possible? There is no Zhou in his dream. Li Jie couldn't believe it. At this time, the whole world was obviously stuck again, like the game was stuck, one after another. Li Jie quickly calmed down and stopped thinking about Zhou. If he continued to think about it, this dream would collapse. There was still one thing he had not done. Xiaoyu, I'm sorry. He can't go to Lu Kaiyu anymore, otherwise the dream will collapse the moment he sees her. Building 7, 406. Li Jie walked into the dormitory and found Wang Haihang sitting in front of his laptop, playing landlords with his girlfriend in his arms, His Higang and Yang Hao chatting nonsense, and Lin Jing sitting in front of his computer playing small games. Brother Jie, you're back. Seeing Li Jie back, Yang Hao smiled and said hello. Lin Jing also turned around and said, Li Jie, I'll lend you your computer to play with for a while. Li Jie nodded to Lin Dingding and glanced at Yang Hao again. This kid suddenly stopped being diligent and timid. He was still a little unaccustomed to it. "Brother Jie, are you really with Xiao Qiao from tourism management?" Yang Hao asked again with interest. Li Jie smiled and said nothing. "Brother Jie, you are awesome. Xiao Qiao is a pretty girl, one of the most beautiful girls in our school." Wang Haiheng, who was playing landlords, turned around and said, "Jizi, when looking for a girlfriend, you can't just look at whether she's pretty or not. Girls like Xiao Qiao fall in love just for fun, and it's you who gets hurt in the end." "Jizi, I think Lao Wang is right, you really need to think more about it," He Zhigang also said. Yang Hao smiled and said, "What's there to think about? Brother Jie can't suffer the consequences." Li Jie listened and glanced at them, but still didn't speak. Some people say some caring words on the surface, seemingly for your own good, but in fact they don't want to see you well, and they are deliberately trying to undermine you. Wang Haiheng should have hooked up with his second girlfriend by now, and he will soon dump this girlfriend he has been tired of for a year, and create a bloody love triangle. Why did he dump this girlfriend? It's not just because the new elementary school girl she made has turned out to be cuter and prettier. Li Jie said to Linjing, "Linjing, I want to use the computer for a while." "Okay." Linjing quickly stood up and gave up his position. The person with the highest emotional intelligence in this dormitory and the best person is Linjing. Li Jie sat down in front of the computer and looked at the old-fashioned computer with a big belly screen, feeling a little nostalgic. This old-fashioned computer was rented by him. The rent was 30 or 50 a month. He couldn't remember. In fact, Li Jie came up with the idea of writing a book when he was a sophomore in college. In order to facilitate writing, he even rented an old-fashioned computer. But this crappy computer broke down after just 10 days. Not only did he incorporate the fragmented outline of the novel he had conceived into 5 or 6 chapters of manuscripts, but he also had an argument with the owner who rented the computer for more than a week, which delayed the writing of the book. Down. Li Jie picked up the mouse and clicked on the D drive, and then clicked on a folder marked as a novel. This is the first novel he conceived, in the urban fairy tale genre. After reading the fragmentary outline and saving the chapters, Li Jie couldn't help but shook his head. What kind of thing is this written? It's too childish. He deleted all these contents and created a new document. What should I write? With his current level, he can't write a novel that is too complex. It would be best to have a template that he can follow. It's December 2008, and mortal style has probably just become popular, so let's write about mortal style. When Li Jie started writing books in his junior year, he had the idea of following the trend and writing a book about ordinary people. But mortal flow had been popular for more than a year at that time, and he felt that the popularity was almost over, so he did not choose to follow the trend. Who knew that the mortal stream would last for more than 10 years, and many people were still writing it until 2011. He first typed the words "reverse immortal" on the document, and then started writing the outline. If you follow the rules, you will be ordinary; if you go against them, you will become immortals. The time soon came to 11 o'clock, in the evening. After turning off the lights, He Zhigang, Yang Hao and the others went to bed one after another. Wang Haiheng played on the computer for a while, and when it was almost 12 o'clock, he also went to bed. Li Jie was the only one sitting in front of the computer and typing. It took him less than 2 hours to complete the outline of the novel, and he had already written 2 or 3 chapters at the beginning. He had written Mortal Flow before, so he could just use the storyline and it was very fast to write. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, Linjing got up and went to the bathroom. Seeing Li Jie still sitting on the computer typing, he said unexpectedly, "Jizi, what time is it? You're not asleep yet?" Li Jie just hummed and continued to concentrate on typing. Although this was just a dream, he wanted to do something even if it was a dream. The world was getting stuck more and more frequently, and he might wake up from his dream at any time. After finishing another chapter, he felt like he was about to wake up. Li Jie quickly plugged in the USB flash drive and copied the novel outline and the first dozen chapters to the USB flash drive. The next moment, he felt in a trance. I finally woke up. I had to work so hard to code words in my dream, but there is no one like him. Li Jie let out a long breath after waking up from his dream. After looking around at the environment, he was stunned. Where is this? This is a strange study room. The decoration is not bad, but it is far from comparable to the study room in his villa. Li Jie's eyes fell on the computer in front of him, and he was stunned again. On the computer screen was a coded document, with most of the chapter already written. Why are you still coding? Could it be a dream within a dream, and he hasn't really woken up yet? Li Jie picked up the mouse, looked through the saved manuscript, and found that it was a novel called Cultivation of Immortality, starting with the simulator. Simulator cultivation, isn't this a changed system flow? He was sure that he had never written such a novel, and the last thing he wanted to write was systematic flow. Is it a new popular idea? Thinking of this, Li Jie quickly looked at the time. May 20th, 2022, 24:06. In May 2022, how could he dream about the future? After the shock, Li Jie's heart moved and he quickly opened the browser, only to find that the content on the web page seemed to be mosaic, making it impossible to see clearly. The whole world also started to freeze. Sure enough, this is a dream, not real. He closed the web page, got up from the chair, walked to the window and looked out. This is a house facing the street. There are shops downstairs, and there are also express delivery points, breakfast shops, small supermarkets, etc. opposite. Even though it was already early in the morning, there was still a barbecue restaurant open not far away. Looking at the street, Li Jie felt a very familiar feeling in his heart. This is a mountain city? Why did he dream about the mountain city? But this house is not his home, right? Li Jie had more doubts in his heart. At this time, the door of the study room was suddenly pushed open. He subconsciously turned around to look, and then froze again. Xiaoqiao. This is another Xiaoqiao, a mature version of Xiaoqiao. She looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. She was wearing a black lace nightgown and looked cute in her maturity. However, it's still a bit flat. Husband, what's wrong with you? Seeing Li Jie staring at her in surprise, Xiaoqiao asked strangely. Husband. Could it be that he is married to the Xiaoqiao? Li Jie calmed down and smiled. It's nothing, I'm just a little tired from typing. Honey, it's getting late. Why don't you go to bed early? You always work so hard and stay up late, which is not good for your health. Xiaoqiao said softly, walked up to Li Jie and handed him the milk in his hand. Drink the milk. Xiaoqiao suddenly became so gentle and considerate, which made Li Jie a little uncomfortable. He took the cup from her hand, took a sip of milk, and then said tentatively, how can I feed you if I don't code? Xiaoqiao smiled and hugged him from behind. Husband, you don't have to work so hard, we are not short of money. How much money do we have? Li Jie asked again tentatively. Xiaoqiao was stunned, raised his head and said, aren't you in charge of the money? Why did you ask me so suddenly? I forgot, I was a little confused when I was coding. Li Jie put the excuse on coding again. Husband, why don't you take a break? Don't work so hard. We have enough money to spend anyway. Xiaoqiao said with worry in his tone. Millions. This Li Jie is not doing well. Li Jie thought in his heart. Li Jie had completely forgotten that before his rebirth, he was in his 30s and had only saved 200 to 300,000, so he was really miserable. As for houses and cars, although he owns a house of more than 80 square meters and a mobility scooter, the house price in the mountain city ranks last in the country and is not worth much at all. Xiao Bao, when did you fall in love with me? After chatting with the Xiao Qiao for a while, Li Jie finally understood the situation. This dream is another world. In the timeline of this world, he came into contact with online literature in high school, started writing novels after the college entrance examination, and made money when he just started his freshman year. Although it is only 1 to 2,000 yuan a month, it is already a lot for an ordinary student. He and Xiao Qiao met in the first semester of their freshman year. He was coding in the school's internet room. Xiao Qiao happened to be surfing the internet too, and she became interested when she saw him coding. For more than a month after that, he went to the internet room to code every night, and Xiao Qiao often came to the internet. After receiving the first royalties, he confessed his love to Xiao Qiao in the name of celebration, and then the two got together. Over the past 10 years, he has not made much money from writing books, only 2 to 3 million in total. It's just that he and Xiao Qiao were lucky. They bought a house with a loan just in time for the housing price boom in Shanghai in 2015. Later, in 20 years, they didn't want to stay in Shanghai anymore, so they gave the house to after selling it. I now have assets of 5 to 6 million. Now the two of them have a house in the mountain city and a house in Hainan. They spend the summer in the north to escape the heat and the winter in the south. They live a very comfortable life. However, the two of them don't have children yet and have been preparing for pregnancy for the past 2 years. This Li Jie is so lucky, Li Jie sighed in his heart. This is the life he once dreamed of, to find a girlfriend he likes, and finally be more beautiful and have a more likable personality. The two of them support each other, trust each other, and live an ordinary life. Maybe this dream is a reflection of his heart. His obsession. Husband, what happened to you tonight? Why can't you remember so many things? Xiao Qiao asked, confused and worried. Also, you haven't called me Qiao Bao for several years. How about you go to the hospital for a physical examination tomorrow? It's okay, Li Jie smiled at her soothingly. No, you should go check it out. Okay, actually I fell asleep while typing, and then I had a dream. This dream was so real that I couldn't distinguish between dreams and reality for a while. Just a dream. After listening to Li Jie's explanation, Xiao Qiao was reluctantly relieved, but she was still a little confused. She always felt that something was wrong with Li Jie tonight. Qiao Bao, you go to bed first. I'll go to bed after writing half of the chapter, Li Jie said again. Stop writing. It's already past 1 o'clock in the morning. You'd better go to bed early. Xiao Qiao pulled Li Jie out of the study and toward the bedroom. Husband, what dream did you have just now? In the morning, when Li Jie woke up, he found that Xiao Qiao beside him was missing. He was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized, sat up from the bed and looked around. He was in the master bedroom of the apartment. This time it's finally no longer a dream. Li Jie breathed a long sigh of relief and rubbed his painful temples. Fortunately it was just a dream. Thinking of the two dreams last night, his thoughts were a little complicated. Dreams are the most real reaction deep inside a person's heart. In reality, Li Jie was asked to choose between Xiao Qiao and Zhou Ziyu, and it was difficult for him to choose. But in the dream his subconscious made a choice. In the dream, he only saw Xiao Qiao, but not Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and others. This choice is something he doesn't want to face in reality, nor does he want to admit. I'm sorry, Xiao. Li Jie sighed deeply in his heart. In fact, according to scientific explanations, dreams are feedback from reality and subconsciousness. Li Jie would only see Xiao Qiao in his dreams, but not Zhou Ziyu and the others. It is probably because only Xiao Qiao was by his side last night, and Zhou Ziyu, but they are not there. President Qiao once again won by luck. However, there are many things in this world that science cannot explain. Just like Li Zhe's rebirth. Li Zhe looked down at himself and found that he only had a pair of underwear on him. After he got drunk last night, Shen Baishan and Zhou Chao must have sent him back. I don't know who took off his clothes, Xiao Jiao or Xiao Yu. Li Zhe got up and got out of bed, put on a nightgown and left the room. For some reason, he desperately wanted to see Xiao Jiao. Jiao Bao, he came to Xiao Jiao's door and knocked, but there was no movement inside. Li Zhe tried to twist the door handle and found that the door was unlocked and opened as soon as he turned it. He pushed the door open and went in. He saw that the room was empty and messy, and there was no sign of Xiao Jiao. Is this Xiao Jiao running away from home again? Li Zhe returned to his room, picked up his cell phone and called Zhou Jing. Xiao Jing, where are you? Mr. Li, we are here at Binjiang Graceland, Zhou Jing whispered on the phone. Binjiang Yawan is the community where Xiao Jiao's small duplex apartment is located. This Xiao Jiao really ran away from home. Li Zhe shook his head and put down his phone. Maybe let her calm down for a few days and see when she comes back on her own initiative. We can't get used to her habit of running away from home. Li Zhe suddenly remembered the mature Xiao Jiao in his dream. So gentle, considerate, and understanding.